I fought for my life against the Xiongnu with 3,000 soldiers, killing until the Xiongnu trembled at the mere mention of my name. My 500 iron cavalry were truly invincible. But the parents who exiled me to the border years ago suddenly arrived at Bailiang City, demanding that I hand over my achievements to my brother, Chen Feng. Let him take over my position, so he can return to the capital with this immense military merit. Marry the eldest princess and bring honor to the ancestors. 10 years of blood and steel have long since erased any expectations I had for my parents. The 300,000 bone-devouring Xiongnu wolves outside the Great Wall Cavalry. How could they be stopped by a frivolous playboy? Since they are rushing to deliver their own heads, why not give them this military power and royal title? But before that, first, sign and seal this kinship severance agreement. That day, I had just returned from outside the pass. The curtain of the commander's tent was suddenly thrown open. The ones entering were not my personal guards, but two middle-aged people dressed in fine silks, with faces that showed a life of luxury. Behind them followed a general wearing brand new, ornate armor, who looked completely out of place. These are my dear parents, and my dear brother, Chen Feng. 10 years since I was sent by them at the age of 15 to this life and death border of Bailiang. For 10 whole years, they never once came to see me. It's quite a rarity that they've all come together today. Chen Yuan, you don't pay your respects upon seeing your parents? My so-called father, Chen Zhengde, had a stern face full of official arrogance. I didn't move. I simply took the north wind battle blade in my hand, still dripping blood, and stabbed it into the ground. With a dull thud, my mother, Lu Rushi, hurried to smooth things over, but her eyes swept over my worn-out armor with a look of disdain. Then she looked at her eldest son, Chen Feng, with full affection. You honor. You've worked hard these 10 years. She spoke. There wasn't a hint of sympathy in her tone, only a sense of entitlement. Your brother is returning to the capital to marry the eldest princess, but he still lacks a presentable military achievement. This position of Bailiang commander. Let your brother take it for now. She paused, as if granting me a great favor. As for you, change your name and be a deputy general, and assist your brother well. We are all family. You wouldn't be so petty, would you? Looking at them, I really wanted to laugh. Beside them, Chen Feng was waving a white jade fan in his hand, which clashed completely with his armor. He gave me a contemptuous glance, and spoke in a sarcastic tone. Little brother, I heard you killed a few Xiongnu bandits here. And now you think you're so powerful. Stop being so smug. It's just some insignificant skirmishing. Once I take over, I will surely lead the Bailiang Iron Cavalry to crush the Xiongnu court. That will be the immense merit that brings honor to the ancestors. Killed a few bandits? Among the 3,000 Great Snow Dragon Cavalry behind me, who among them hasn't taken dozens or hundreds of Xiongnu lives? My name, Chen Yuan, makes Xiongnu children cry in the night. Yet in his mouth, it becomes insignificant skirmishing. The fire suppressed in my heart for 10 years suddenly flared up, the hand gripping the hilt. Veins popped out, knuckles turning white from the grip. The intent to kill was real. In this Bailiang, if I want to kill someone, it's easier than crushing an ant. But looking at those ugly and ignorant faces, I suddenly laughed. Laughed loudly. Laughed until the entire commander's tent echoed. They were all stunned by my laughter. Chen Zhengde's face turned purple with rage. What are you laughing at? Has this wretched son gone mad? I stopped laughing, stared at them, and said word by word. Fine. You want the military power. You can have it. Joy immediately appeared on the faces of the three of them. My mother was even already calculating how to brag to those noblewomen back in the capital. But then I made a sharp turn, pulled out a piece of paper I had prepared long ago, and slammed it onto the table. Sign and seal it right here. It was a kinship severance agreement, written clearly in black and white. From this day forth, I, Chen Yuan, have no further connection with the Chen family. From now on, marriage, life, death, wealth or poverty, shall be entirely separate. Henceforth, the honor or shame of the Chen family has nothing to do with me, and my life or death shall not involve the Chen family. Chen Zhengde's face instantly turned the color of pig liver, pointing at my nose and cursing loudly. You unfilial wretch! You want to sever ties with us? My mother also screamed. Chen Yuan, are you mad? We are your biological parents. You would actually sever ties with us for a bit of military power? Has your filial piety been eaten by dogs? I look at them and find it truly ridiculous. It's not that I want to sever our ties, but you forced me to. I pick up the pen on the table and throw it in front of them. 10 years ago, to pave the way for Chen Feng. You took me, a 15-year-old child, and threw me into this man-eating place. Did you ever think that I am your own son? Now, for the sake of his future, you come to pluck the fruit I earned with my life. Have you ever wondered how I spent these 10 years? There are 137 scars on my body. I have 8,600 brothers in Beiliang. My voice isn't loud, but every word is like a hammer, smashing into their hearts. Sign or get out. I can't be bothered to waste more words on them. Chen Feng was the first to lose his composure. He snatched the severance document, his eyes gleaming. Father, mother, sign it. He wants to sever it himself. It has nothing to do with us. Ha 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 ha. Once I get the tiger tally, I will be the king of Beiliang. When the time comes to marry the eldest princess, our Chen family will be royal relatives. Who would still acknowledge this waste of a person? I look at his impatient expression. The cold sneer in my heart grows deeper. Chen Zhengde is still hesitating, but my mother, Lu Rushi, snatched the pen, quickly signing her own name on it, and pressed her thumbprint. Sign it, let him get out. I'll act as if I never gave birth to this son. I only have one son, Fenger, she screamed in a shrill voice. Chen Zhengde looked at that token symbolizing the tiger tally of Beiliang's highest military power. In the end, he couldn't resist the temptation of power. Gritting his teeth, he signed and sealed it. Chen Feng was even more ecstatic, scribbling his own name carelessly. He threw the severance document at me, then greedily snatched the tiger tally from the table, as if holding some peerless treasure. The tiger tally is in my hands. Father, mother, we succeeded. The three of them hugged each other, celebrating in wild joy. I simply silently put away that severance document, folded and placed in my robe. From this moment on, I am free. None of them noticed. Just as they were celebrating wildly, outside the commander's tent, on the walls of Beiliang, the sentinel's face turned pale. At the edge of the distant horizon, the Xiongnu's beacon fires, one by one, then another, began to light up, forming a fire dragon soaring into the sky. That was not a probe. That was the signal for 300,000 troops to assemble. My dear brother, I hope you like this overwhelming military merit I've given you. Chen Yuan, remember this. My newly appointed father, Chen Zhengde, warned me with a stern face. Keep today's matter buried in your gut. If it gets out, and ruins your brother's reputation to marry the eldest princess, I will not forgive you. I sneered in my heart. We've severed ties, yet he still wants to pressure me as a father. He's truly not thinking clearly. I ignored him, and began to take off the heavy armor I was wearing. That set that had been with me for 10 years, the black iron armor covered in sword marks and arrow holes, was taken off piece by piece and thrown on the ground, making a heavy sound. My mother, Lu Rushi, frowned, covering her nose with a face full of disgust. This smell of blood is suffocating. Fenger, let's go quickly. Don't stay in this unlucky place. Chen Feng, holding the tiger tally, was floating on air, his back straight as a board. He glanced at me with the eyes of a superior. Humph, just a stray dog. Father, mother, let's go to the training grounds. I want to see for myself how powerful the world-renowned Beiliang Iron Cavalry actually is. From today onwards, they are my, Chen Feng's, soldiers. After speaking, he arrogantly led my parents out of the commander's tent. I slowly changed into a set of coarse linen clothes, feeling a sense of relief all over my body. The shackles of 10 years were finally completely broken today. Old Zhang, the personal guard, walked in. He is a veteran in his 50s. He has followed me since my first day in Beiliang. 3 years ago, to save me. His left arm was cut off by the Xiongnu. Your Highness, did you really hand over the tiger tally? Old Zhang's single eye was full of worry and reluctance. What right do those people have? Old Zhang, from today on, I am no longer the king of Beiliang. I patted his shoulder. My name is Chen Yuan, an orphan with no father or mother. But, there is no but. I smiled. Come, let's go see the excitement too. I'm quite curious how my dear brother will command my 3,000 Great Snow Dragon Cavalry. On the training ground, the 3,000 Great Snow Dragon Cavalry had already assembled. A dense mass, dead silent. Only a murderous aura lingered. Every single one of them climbed out from piles of corpses. The aura of slaughter on them would make even the capital's elite guards tremble. Chen Feng stood on the inspection platform, holding the tiger tally. He cleared his throat, and began his long-winded speech. "Soldiers, from this day forward, I, Chen Feng, am your new commander." He was high-spirited, his voice booming. "The past is in the past. That previous man named Chen was merely a caretaker. But I will lead you to take the offensive, crush the Xiongnu court, and achieve eternal glory for our Great Zhou." He spoke with passion, but the 3,000 iron cavalry below didn't even blink. Each one was expressionless, their eyes hollow. The atmosphere was suffocatingly awkward. Chen Feng's face began to falter. He raised the tiger tally and roared. "What? Did you not hear this general's words? Seeing the tiger tally is like seeing the sovereign. Are you defying orders?" Still, no one moved. 3,000 men were like 3,000 ice sculptures, staring at him coldly. My mother, Lu Rushi, grew anxious, screaming shrilly from the side. "You lot have lost your minds. My son holds the tiger tally. How dare you disobey? Is this a rebellion?" Chen Feng was enraged by the dead silence. He felt his dignity was being challenged as never before. He pointed at a centurion in the front row and roared, "Step forward. Tell this general why you do not answer." That centurion was a burly man with a full beard, with a hideous scar across his neck. He looked up at Chen Feng, a gaze as if looking at a dead man. "We only recognize the king of North Liang." His voice was raspy but crystal clear. "Presumptuous." Chen Feng trembled with rage. "What king of North Liang? I am the king of North Liang now. Guards, drag this man out and execute him." To serve as a warning, he shouted for a long time, but not a single guard dared to step forward, because they had all seen those 3,000 murderous glares, simultaneously locking onto the platform. If anyone dared to move, they would be torn to shreds in the next second. Chen Feng's face turned a deep purple. He didn't expect that while holding the tiger tally, he couldn't even move a single centurion. Rebellion. Total rebellion. A pack of rabble. He cursed frantically in frustration. I stood at the edge of the parade ground watching this, feeling the time was right. I pulled an inconspicuous bone whistle from my robe, put it to my lips, and blew softly. A sharp but not piercing whistle pierced the dead silence of the grounds. The moment the whistle sounded, a miracle happened. Those 3,000 ice sculptures came to life. The centurion in the front row acted first. Expressionlessly, he unbuckled his armor, and threw it to the ground with a clang. Then the second, then the third. The crisp yet heavy sound of clashing metal merged into one, echoing through the sky. 3,000 North Liang iron cavalry, under the horrified gazes of Chen Feng and his parents, simultaneously stripped off the armor they valued as their lives, and cast away the spears they relied on for survival. They stripped so decisively, so resolutely. Finally, 3,000 men in simple underclothes, bare-chested and covered in hideous scars, knelt on one knee in my direction. Their voices shook the heavens. "Where the prince retreats, we retreat. Where the prince goes, we go. In this life, we obey only the king of North Liang." That voice merged into a torrent, nearly knocking the three people off the platform. Chen Feng's face turned from purple to deathly pale. The hand holding the tiger tally trembled like a sieve. He couldn't understand it for the life of him. Why these gods of slaughter would rather strip and strike than obey his orders. My father, Chen Zhengde, collapsed onto the ground, muttering to himself, "It's over, it's all over." My mother, Lu Rushi, screamed in terror, hiding behind Chen Feng, looking at us as if seeing ghosts. I didn't spare them another glance. "Old Zhang, let's go." I turned and led old Zhang, along with dozens of personal guards, and walked out of the camp with ease. Behind me were 3,000 following gazes, and the desperate wails of that family on the platform. The heavens of North Liang are about to change. We didn't go far. Just 10 odd miles away from Beiliang City, we settled on a small hillside. The view here is wide open, perfectly capturing the entire Beiliang City and all the movements outside the pass. Old Zhang and the others were quick, and soon set up several simple tents. They also lit a bonfire, and roasted a fat sheep they had just caught. The mutton sizzled and dripped oil, the aroma filling the air. I tore off a golden brown roasted leg, handed it to old Zhang, took one for myself, and began eating heartily. Satisfying. I took a large gulp of strong liquor, feeling the suffocating frustration of 10 years finally dissipate completely. Old Zhang gnawed on the leg, looking at the brightly lit Beiliang City below, still feeling somewhat worried. "Master, you just gave away the military power like that. What if, just what if, the Xiongnu attack, and that strawman named Chen can't hold them off? Then the people of Beiliang City will suffer." I chewed the mutton, without looking up. Old Zhang, remember this. From this day forward, the safety of Beiliang City is General Chen Feng's responsibility. What does it have to do with a commoner like me? As for the people, I paused, looking at the bonfire, the firelight reflecting on my face, flickering on and off. This was their own choice. They chose their own path. Whether it brings fortune or disaster, they must bear it. My heart had already grown cold 10 years ago when I was exiled here. It was already cold. These years I protected Beiliang, not for that decayed imperial court, nor for those cold-blooded parents, but only for the brothers behind me, and for the simple folk of the border town. But human hearts change. The news of me surrendering military power was like it grew wings. In less than an hour, it spread throughout all of Beiliang, and almost at the same time, this news also crossed the Great Wall, reaching the ears of the Xiongnu outside the Great Wall. At the Xiongnu royal court, Chanyu Madan was embracing a captured Zhou beauty and drinking wine. Hearing the scout's report, he was stunned at first, then burst into a thunderous laugh. Ha ha ha, the eternal heaven has opened its eyes. That god of slaughter, Chen Yuan, that butcher who kept us from stepping south for 10 years, was actually driven away by his own people. Chanyu, it is absolutely true. The one replacing him is his useless brother. Heard he's a coward who has never even killed a chicken. Madan pushed the woman in his arms away, stood up abruptly, his eyes flashing with greed and brutality. 10 years, 10 whole years. The scimitars of my Xiongnu warriors are almost rusting. Pass my royal order. He drew the golden blade from his waist, pointing south, his voice roaring like a hungry wolf. All army assemble. Target Beiliang City. I will use that useless general's skull as a wine cup. I will make the emperor of Great Zhou kneel at my feet and sing of conquest. Awo. Inside and outside the royal court, hundreds of thousands of Xiongnu wolf cavalry let out excited howls. They had been suppressed by Chen Yuan for too long. That sense of frustration and fear, at this moment, all transformed into the most primitive desire for slaughter. 300,000 troops, like a black tide, began surging toward the Beiliang Pass. Meanwhile, inside Beiliang City, my dear brother Chen Feng was throwing a grand feast in the commander's tent that once belonged to me. He called over the best songstresses and dancers in the city. The tent was thick with the smell of alcohol. Decadent music filled the air. He held a seductive dancer in his arms, holding a wine cup in his hand, already half drunk. My beauty, just watch. Once this general conquers the Xiongnu, and marries the eldest princess, you will be a honored guest of my Chen royal mansion. He bragged triumphantly. The general's power is divine. I shall toast the general first. My father Chen Zhengde and mother Lu Rushi were also seated at the table, although they were quite frightened during the day. But seeing their son appearing to control the situation now, they regained their haughty demeanor. Feng, how are those arrogant soldiers and generals? Have they all submitted? Lu Rushi asked with concern. Mother, please rest assured. Chen Feng waved his hand, saying indifferently, just a bunch of vulgar barbarians. Starve them for a few days, and see if they dare to be arrogant with this general. Without military pay, they won't even have food to eat. Then they'll have to come back and beg me obediently. Chen Zhengde also twirled his beard, nodding with a smug air. This method is very good. To deal with these soldier thugs, one must not be soft-hearted. The family was daydreaming, celebrating the wealth and honor soon to be theirs. Suddenly, rumble rumble, the earth began to shake slightly. The wine cups on the table buzzed along. What's happening? An earthquake? Chen Feng shook his head, somewhat displeased. The personal guards outside the tent rushed in clumsily, their faces devoid of color, their voices trembling uncontrollably. General, it's bad. It's bad. What's the panic? Chen Feng kicked him. Has the sky fallen? The guard looked miserable, pointing toward the pass, almost collapsing to the ground. The sky really is falling. Xiongnu, an army of 300,000 Xiongnu have broken through the pass. What? The wine pot in Chen Feng's hand fell to the ground with a crash, shattering into pieces. The drunkenness on his face vanished instantly, replaced by boundless terror. He thought it was 3,000, 30,000 at most. How could it be 300,000? Didn't those scouts say the Xiongnu main force was thousands of miles away? He rushed out of the commander's tent clumsily, and immediately saw the soaring Flames and heaven-shaking battle cries at the pass. The dark mass of Xiongnu cavalry, like demons surging from hell, had already broken through the first line of defense, and were frantically slaughtering those unarmed soldiers guarding the pass. Chen Feng's eyes rolled back. His legs went weak, collapsing directly to the ground. A stream of warm liquid flowed down his trouser leg. A pungent smell instantly spread. He had pissed himself on the spot, and I was sitting on the hillside, leisurely roasting meat, while calmly watching the living hell below. Master, a dark figure appeared silently behind me. One of my confidants, Shadow, who is in charge of intelligence. The spy sent by the eldest princess to monitor you, was just scared witless, and fled toward the capital on a fast horse. I smiled, adding a piece of firewood to the fire. Very good, let him run, the faster the better. I want that high and mighty emperor in the capital, and that arrogant eldest princess, to see clearly, without the butcher, who will stop the hungry wolves. They will soon realize, that in this North Liang, who is truly indispensable, who the true king of North Liang actually is. The fires of North Liang Pass burned all night. The shouts, screams, and wails, mingled together, could be heard clearly from over 10 miles away. Old Zhang and the guards stood there, their fists clenched tightly, their eyes bloodshot. They wanted to rush down, to save the comrades they once fought alongside, to save the unarmed civilians. But since I didn't give the order, no one dared to move. Master, that Chen Feng is a piece of trash. He moved the heavy armored infantry to the walls to serve as archers, and sent the scout camp to charge head-on. Isn't this just sending our brothers to their deaths? A guard trembled with rage, his voice choking with tears. I drank my wine, without saying a word. This is the result I wanted. Unless he is pushed to a dead end, unless North Liang bleeds enough, those big shots in the capital will never know pain. When dawn broke, the first wave of the attack finally receded. They weren't repelled. It's that the Xiongnu have looted enough, and temporarily withdrew beyond the pass to regroup. The first line of defense of Beiliang Pass has completely fallen. 3,000 defending troops were almost entirely wiped out. Corpses piled up like mountains beneath the wall. Blood flowed like a river. And my dear brother, Chen Feng, had long been dragged from the ground back to the general's tent. After he woke up, the first thing he thought of wasn't how to organize the defense, but instead grabbing his father's sleeve, crying with snot and tears streaming down. Father, what do we do? 300,000 Xiongnu. They will kill me. I don't want to die. Chen Zhengde was also at a complete loss. His old face was as pale as paper. His lips were trembling, unable to utter a single word. He had spent his whole life maneuvering in officialdom. Where had he ever seen such a scene of mountains of corpses and seas of blood? Lu Rushi held her precious son, crying and cursing at the same time. It's all the fault of that little beast. It's all Chen Yuan's fault. He must have done it on purpose. He knew long ago that the Xiongnu were coming. That's why he dumped this mess on us. That damn ungrateful wolf. Even at a time like this, instead of reflecting on their own greed, they push all the blame onto me. Truly ridiculous. Yes, it's all Chen Yuan's fault. Chen Feng acted as if he had found a lifeline. His eyes suddenly lit up. He must be watching from nearby. Let's quickly go find him. Make him come back. Make him fight the Xiongnu. Will he come back? Chen Zhengde asked tremulously. He must come back. Chen Feng shouted excitedly. There are still hundreds of thousands of civilians in Beiliang City. Didn't he claim to be the guardian deity of Beiliang? Can he stand by and watch all these people die? He wouldn't dare. He will definitely come back. My mother chimed in as well. Yes, he cherishes his reputation the most. We will go beg him. We will go order him. If he doesn't come back, we will tell the whole world that it was Chen Yuan, to seek revenge on us, who deliberately lured the Xiongnu into the pass, causing the death of the city's people. Let's see how he can face the world then. I sat on the hillside, listening to the report brought back by Shadow. The mockery at the corner of my mouth deepened. At a time like this, they still think of moral kidnapping. They still think of ordering me around. They will never understand, a person whose heart has died, just how terrifying they are. Chen Feng soon cheered up. He felt his plan was foolproof. He sent people everywhere to search for my traces. At the same time, in order to show off his ability, before begging me to return, he began his second act. He took those veterans of the Great Snow Dragon Cavalry, who had lost their armor and spears and were now like civilians, and drove them all to the walls of the second line of defense. Aren't you the ones who can fight? Now the Xiongnu are here, so get out there and fight. He stood in the safe rear, pointing at those unarmed soldiers screaming at the top of his lungs. Anyone who dares take a step back will be dealt with by military law. Their entire family will be executed. Those veterans looked at him coldly, their eyes full of mockery and contempt. No weapons, no armor, forcing them to use their flesh and blood to block the Xiongnu's scimitars and iron hooves. This was no longer commanding. This was a one-sided massacre. Soon, the Xiongnu's second wave of attack began. This time, they deployed siege engines and catapults. Massive boulders whistled as they smashed into the wall. Every impact made the entire Beiliang city tremble. Chen Feng hid behind the parapet, too terrified to even lift his head. He looked down from the wall at those Beiliang iron cavalry he once envied so much. Now, like stalks of wheat, being harvested piece by the Xiongnu. They had no weapons, so they bit with their teeth, smashed with stones. Their limbs were hacked off, so they used their bodies to plug the gaps in the wall. Every single one of them, until the final moment of death. They did not retreat a single step, not for Chen Feng, nor for that damn imperial court. They simply did not want their wives, children, and elders to fall into the clutches of the Xiongnu. Chen Feng watched this scene. Not only was he not moved or guilty in the slightest, but instead, he said excitedly to his father, "Father, look, these lowlives are still afraid of death. As long as we threaten their families, they will have no choice but to serve us obediently." Chen Zhengde also revealed a smile. Feng is right. It seems these soldier ruffians are not that hard to deal with. Listening to Shadow's report, the wine cup in my hand was crushed to pieces. I expected them to be stupid, but I didn't expect them to be this stupid, this evil. Master, the brothers can hardly hold on. Old Zhang's voice was trembling. I stood up, looking at the city below the mountain that was already crumbling. There was not a single ripple in my eyes. Pass the order. Tell the brothers lurking in the city to take our families, and the families of the fallen brothers, and quietly evacuate them all. What about the others? The others. I turned my head, looking at old Zhang, said slowly and clearly, respect others' fates. Let go of the urge to help. Old Zhang was stunned, then nodded heavily. Yes, Master, I want everyone to see clearly what Beiliang without me would end up like. I also want my dear brother to taste the feeling of falling from the clouds into the mud. This play has only just begun. Beiliang's second line of defense was finally breached. The moment the Xiongnu wolf flag was planted on the city wall, the entire Beiliang city fell into complete chaos. The commoners cried and screamed, fleeing in all directions like headless flies. The Xiongnu cavalry were like a pack of wolves rushing into a sheepfold, grinning savagely, brandishing their scimitars, enjoying this feast of slaughter. Houses were set ablaze. Thick smoke rolled, blotting out the sun. The screams of women, the wailing of children, the roars of men before their miserable deaths, intertwined into a desperate song of hell. Inside the commander's tent, Chen Feng and his parents had long been scared witless. Run, run quickly. Lu Rushi was the first to react. She grabbed Chen Feng's arm, dragging him out like a madwoman. If we don't run now, it'll be too late. Chen Zhengde also followed behind, scrambling on all fours. What official authority, what dignity. All became worthless in the face of death. They took a dozen personal guards, changed into the clothes of ordinary soldiers, hoping to escape the city amidst the chaos. But the city had long become a chaotic mess. Xiongnu soldiers, bloodshot with killing, were everywhere. Commoners fleeing and wailing were everywhere. They hadn't run far before being swept apart by a tide of refugees. Fenger, my Fenger. Lu Rushi was pushed left and right by the crowd. She screamed in terror, but could only watch helplessly as Chen Feng drifted further away. A Xiongnu cavalryman noticed her. Although she had changed her clothes, her well-maintained skin and panicked expression indicated she was no ordinary commoner. The Xiongnu soldier let out a lewd, strange laugh, spurring his horse toward her. The horsewhip was raised high. Ah! Lu Rushi was scared out of her wits, and closed her eyes. Just then, Chen Zhengde found courage from nowhere, and suddenly lunged forward, pushing her aside. The whip lashed violently across Chen Zhengde's back, instantly tearing flesh from bone. Run! Chen Zhengde grimaced in agony, yet still clung tightly to the horse's leg, turning back to shout at Lu Rushi. Lu Rushi scrambled away, not daring to look back. The Xiongnu soldier was enraged, drew his scimitar, and severed Chen Zhengde's arm with one blow. Ah! Chen Zhengde let out a pig-like scream of agony. Rolling on the ground, the Xiongnu soldier was still not satisfied, and hacked violently at his leg. Only then did he grin savagely, and go chase other prey. On the other side, Chen Feng's situation was not any better. He was pushed to the ground by the crowd. Several civilians stepped all over him. His pampered body had never endured such things. The pain brought tears to his eyes. He struggled to crawl up. As he looked up, he saw a tall Xiongnu soldier, holding a baby who was still wailing, with a sinister grin, preparing to throw him into the nearby fire. The child's mother knelt on the ground, clinging desperately to the Xiongnu soldier's leg, begging piteously. The Xiongnu soldier found her annoying, and kicked her away. Then, as if throwing away trash, he tossed the child into the flames. Chen Feng witnessed this scene. His stomach churned violently. He vomited on the spot. These were the lowly Xiongnu bandits he spoke of. This was the immense military merit he wanted to claim. Fear, like countless ice-cold hands, gripped his heart tightly. He dared not look again, crawling on the ground with his hands and feet, wanting only to get as far as possible from this living hell. He crawled over corpses, crawled through pools of blood, his body covered in filth. Just when he thought he had found a way to survive, a blood-stained military boot stepped heavily on his back. "Oh, there's a tender little thing here." A hoarse voice sounded above his head. Chen Feng froze. He could smell the heavy scent of blood and the smell of mutton on the other person. He was finished. I sat on the hillside, listening to Ingzi report the tragedy in the city line by line. "Master, Chen Zhengde had an arm and a leg cut off. Now he is being dragged by Lu Rushi, hiding in a rice vat. Still alive for now." Chen Feng was captured by the Xiongnu. Looking at his skin and flesh, they likely want to raise him as a two-legged sheep, to eat when they are hungry. I listened expressionlessly, toying with a warm, smooth jade pendant in my hand. That was 10 years ago, when I left the capital. The only thing I took with me. "Have our people all withdrawn?" I asked. "They have all withdrawn, Master, according to your orders. The families of the 3,000 Great Snow Dragon Cavalry, and the orphans of the fallen brothers, not a single one missing. All have been settled in the valley behind the mountain." "Very well," I nodded. Old Zhang stood aside, hesitating to speak. "Say what you want to say, Master." Old Zhang finally couldn't hold back. "In the city, there are still hundreds of thousands of civilians. They are innocent. Are we just going to watch?" I turned my head to look at him, and looked at the Imperial guards behind him with equally complex expressions. "Old Zhang, let me ask you, back when I was forced to hand over the tiger tally, those civilians, did anyone stand up to say a word for me?" Old Zhang fell silent. "When my 3,000 brothers were forced to take off their armor, and became lambs to the slaughter, those civilians, did anyone plead for mercy on their behalf?" Old Zhang's head bowed even lower. "No, they would only hide in their homes, watching the spectacle through their windows. They thought, it didn't matter who became the king of Northern Liang. They thought, that if the sky fell, we soldiers would hold it up." My voice was cold, like the wind of Northern Liang. "Now the sky has fallen. I simply don't want to hold it up anymore. I cannot save everyone, nor do I want to. I only want to save those who are worth saving." I stood up and walked toward the tent. "Pass down the order. The entire army is to rest and reorganize. Await news from the capital. This fire must burn a little brighter. It must burn all the way to the capital. Burn into the Golden Throne Hall. And burn the dragon throne of that emperor to be enough." The news spread faster than I imagined. On the third day of Chen Feng's capture, a piece of news that made him and the entire Chen family, and even the entire Great Zhou lose all face, spread throughout the Xiongnu camp, and through my intelligence network, was delivered to my desk. That day, Modu, the Chanyu of the Xiongnu, in the largest square of northern Liang City, a grand banquet for the ministers. The so-called ministers were the cold-blooded tribal chiefs under his command. The entertainment for the banquet was very special, not singing and dancing, but walking a dog. That dog was my dear brother, Chen Feng. His clothes had been stripped off. An iron chain was around his neck. Crawling on the ground like a dog, a Xiongnu soldier held the chain, kicking him from time to time, forcing him to bark like a dog. Woof woof woof. Chen Feng barked. To survive, he barked louder than anyone, more desperately than anyone. Around the square, Xiongnu soldiers crowded around. They laughed wildly, throwing leftover bones and scraps before him. "Eat, General of Great Zhou, eat." Chen Feng hesitated for a moment, but the soldier holding him stepped hard on his head, pressing his face into the muddy water. He dared not resist anymore. Like a truly starving dog, he lunged forward, scrambling for the bones on the ground, stuffing the mud-covered food into his mouth. Modu sat on the high main seat, watching this scene, laughing uncontrollably. Ha ha ha. This is the general of Great Zhou. This is the hero who came to flatten my court. In my eyes, he is inferior to the most obedient dog in my tent. The surrounding Xiongnu chiefs all burst into loud laughter. To them, this was an unprecedented victory, not just militarily, but spiritually as well. They defeated the one who terrified them for 10 years, the god-slaying brother, and turned him into a dog. This news, to me, caused no ripple. I simply handed the intel to old Zhang. After old Zhang read it, shaking with rage, slamming a fist on the table. Beast, this is an absolute disgrace. Master, I will go kill him. Cannot let him disgrace Great Zhou like this anymore. It is Chen Feng's face being disgraced. The Chen family's face. The emperor's face. What does it have to do with Great Zhou? Or with me, Chen Yuan? Anyway, I said indifferently. But, no buts. I interrupted him. If a person can sell even their own dignity, then they only deserve to be a dog. Whether a dog lives or dies, I have no interest in. Old Zhang fell silent. He knew my temperament. What I decide, no one can change. At the same time, Chen Zhengde and Lu Rushi, hiding in the rice jar, also heard this news. It was 2 Xiongnu soldiers cleaning the battlefield, passing by and chatting. That they overheard. Did you hear? That general of Great Zhou has now become the Chanyu's dog, crawling on the ground every day. Ha ha ha. I saw it too. That cowardly look was hilarious. Less backbone than a sheep in our tribe. Inside the rice jar. Upon hearing this, Lu Rushi, her vision went dark, and she fainted immediately. Chen Zhengde did not faint. His whole body was shaking, not because of pain, nor because of fear, but because of a bone-deep despair and regret. It's over. Everything is over. The Chen family is completely finished. The one he was proud of, the eldest son in whom he placed all his hope, has become a dog for the Xiongnu. This stain will be forever etched on the Chen family's pillar of shame. Even if the Chen family could survive, they could never hold their heads high again. Only now does he understand what he destroyed with his own hands. For the sake of a waste, he drove away a true hero. For the sake of so-called wealth and honor, pushed the entire clan into an abyss from which there is no return. Ah, he let out a beast-like roar. Tears of regret, mixed with blood and mud, streamed down his face. With his only remaining good hand, he slapped himself violently. I was wrong. I was wrong. Yuan, your father was wrong. Come back and save us. He wailed and cried out, but his voice, muffled in the rice jar, sounded so weak, so pathetic. On the hillside, I listened to Shadow's report, while calmly wiping my north wind war blade. Under the reflection of the fire, the blade gleamed with a cold light. Master, Chen Zhengde and Lu Rushi have nearly gone mad. Their only thought now is to find you, and beg you to return. Let them beg. I sheathed my blade. Any news from the capital? Soon, Shadow replied. The eldest princess's spy has ridden 3 horses to death. He should reach the capital tonight. I nodded and stood up, gazing toward the capital. The good show is about to begin in the imperial court. I wonder what expression my high and mighty emperor will make when he learns that the king of Beiliang he appointed is acting as a dog for the Xiongnu. What a wonderful expression he will have. I shall wait and see. Beiliang city ultimately could not hold out past the 5th day. Under the brave leadership of that dog, Chen Feng, the remaining resistance in the city was swiftly dismantled. Madan, the Chanyu of the Xiongnu, held a grand entry ceremony. Riding a tall horse, he marched down the widest street, Zhuke Avenue. Along both sides of the street, the surviving people of Beiliang knelt. They trembled, not daring to look up, and before Madan's horse, holding the reins, bowing and scraping, with a face full of flattering smiles, was none other than my dear brother, Chen Feng. This scene was witnessed by countless people. Beiliang, the strongest barrier of Great Zhou's north. This fortress I built with 10 years of effort and the lives of countless brothers. This mighty city, in such a humiliating manner, was declared completely fallen. The news spread like a plague, diffusing in all directions, and the first to receive this definite news was the capital of Great Zhou thousands of miles away. Late that night in the imperial palace, Zichen Hall, Emperor Zhou Qian of Great Zhou had just gone to bed, when he was awakened by a series of urgent knocks. Your Majesty! Your Majesty, an urgent dispatch, an emergency report from Beiliang. Zhou Qian's heart skipped a beat, as an ominous feeling surged in his heart. He threw on his dragon robe, and walked quickly out of the hall with a grim face. A dust-covered, blood-soaked messenger was kneeling on the ground, holding high a wax-sealed memorial. He was the exclusive spy of the eldest princess's manor. Read it. Zhou Qian's voice was somewhat hoarse. The chief eunuch took the memorial, opened it, and began reading in a high-pitched voice trembling with fear. The content of the memorial was simple, but every word was like a heavy hammer, striking Zhou Qian's heart violently. Chen and son arrived in Beiliang, forced the palace and demanded the throne. King of Beiliang, Chen Yuan, signed the severance of kinship, handed over the tiger tally, and departed. The new king of Beiliang, Chen Feng, is incompetent and cowardly, incompetent and timid. The 3,000 Great Snow Dragon Cavalry stripped their armor on the spot, refusing to follow orders. The night Chen Yuan left the camp, 300,000 Xiongnu troops pressed the border, broke through the pass. Chen Feng deserted the battle, terrified to the point of incontinence. The entire army collapsed. Beiliang fell. Chen Feng was captured, and to save his life, willingly became a dog, leading the horse and holding the stirrup. With every sentence the chief eunuch read, Zhou Qian's face grew paler. When he reached the last line, willingly become a dog, holding the horse and falling from the stirrup, Zhou Qian could no longer bear it. A mouthful of fresh blood suddenly sprayed out, staining the dragon robe before him red. Your Majesty. The surrounding eunuchs and palace maids were terrified out of their wits, falling to their knees in unison. Bastards! You wretched things! Zhou Qian pointed toward the north, trembling with rage, his face distorted. Chen Feng, I shall execute 9 generations of your kin. He never could have imagined that Chen whom he personally promoted, and Chen Feng, the future son-in-law in whom he placed great hope, would actually cause such a catastrophic disaster. Beiliang has fallen. What does that mean? It means the northern gate of Great Zhou has been flung open to the Xiongnu. 300,000 Xiongnu cavalry can charge straight in at any moment. Arriving at the city gates, guards! Zhou Qian roared frantically. Pass my imperial decree. Immediately take Chen Zhengda's entire family, all those currently in the capital. Throw them all into the imperial prison, to await their sentence. Right now, send men to Beiliang. No, send an army to Beiliang. Take Beiliang back for me. Like a trapped beast, he paced back and forth in the hall, speaking incoherently. Chen Yuan. Where is Chen Yuan? He suddenly stopped in his tracks, grabbing the chief eunuch by the collar, his eyes bloodshot. Where is that Chen Yuan? Where is he? Find him for me, quickly. Make him come back. Make him stop the Xiongnu for me. The chief eunuch was so scared he nearly cried. Your Majesty, the report says, General Chen Yuan has already signed the kinship severance letter. His whereabouts are unknown. Useless. Zhou Qian kicked him away. Find him even if he's gone. Dig 3 feet into the earth if you must to find him for me. Tell him, as long as he is willing to return, I will grant him anything. Make him a king or a marquis. Even marry the eldest princess to him, as long as he can drive the Xiongnu back for me. The entire imperial palace, because of this urgent report from Beiliang, fell into complete chaos. It's truly collapsing. Another person who received the news was the eldest princess, Zhou Muxue, sitting in her magnificent palace. She clutched a copy of the secret report, her knuckles white from the grip. Her face was paler than paper. She had always believed that her future husband, Chen Feng, was a man of both literary and martial talent, a great hero about to achieve unprecedented merit. She looked down upon the rumored crude and savage butcher of Beiliang, Chen Yuan, who reeked of blood. But now, reality had dealt her a resounding slap. The hero in her heart was a waste who didn't even dare kill a chicken, deserted his post, and even became a dog for the enemy. And the butcher she looked down upon was the one who truly, by his own strength, suppressed the Xiongnu for 10 years. The pillar of heaven who supported half of Great Zhou. The man she should have married was originally such a towering and upright man. It was she, the royal family, and the Chen family, who personally pushed this man away. Regret, like a venomous snake, gnawed at her heart. Prepare the horses. She suddenly stood up, her voice trembling with emotion. I am going to Beiliang. I will go and find him myself. She knew that the only one who could save Great Zhou now, save her, and save the royal family, was that man, the man who had been abandoned by them all. Before dawn broke, the atmosphere in the capital had changed. Countless imperial guards and riders, like fierce demons, stormed into Chen Zhengda's residence in the capital. Everyone in the Chen manor, whether masters or servants, were all jolted awake from their sleep. Then they were roughly dragged into the courtyard. The imperial guard commander in charge read the emperor's decree in public. Chen Zhengda, minister of revenue, failed to discipline his son and deceived the emperor. His son Chen Feng lost courage before battle and betrayed the nation for glory. His crime cannot be pardoned. From this moment on, the entire Chen clan is to be thrown into the imperial prison, to await punishment, by imperial order. The moment the decree was announced, the whole Chen residence wailed to the heavens. The collateral relatives of the Chen family never imagined even in their dreams that yesterday they were celebrating Chen Feng becoming the prince consort, and today they would become prisoners. We are wronged, my lord. We are innocent. This was all done by Chen Zhengde and Chen Feng. It has nothing to do with us. But the imperial guards did not care. The order they received was, as long as someone carried the Chen surname, not a single one was to be spared. All of them were to be taken away. For a time, the most prominent minister Chen residence in the capital became a plague ground everyone avoided. And all of this was reported by the spies I had planted in the capital. Back to Beiliang without missing a single word. I listened to the report, without the slightest ripple in my heart. This was what they deserved. What cause they planted was what fruit they received. Master, besides the arrests, the emperor also issued 2 more decrees. Shadow continued reporting. First, he ordered the Ministry of War to gather 300,000 troops, with the old General Li Mu as commander, to prepare to retake Beiliang. I laughed. 300,000 troops. The soldiers near the capital had long been hollowed out by wine and women. Forget 300,000. Even 500,000 would only be sent to die before the Xiongnu. As for old General Li Mu, he is indeed a capable minister. Unfortunately he is old, and under his command, there are no Great Snow Dragon riders. What about the second decree? I asked. The second decree was sent to every province in the realm. It was a notice to find someone, or rather an imperial confession of guilt. Shadow handed me a copied document. I opened it and read it. The contents written on it were quite sincere and emotional. The emperor first cursed Chen Zhengde and his son for their shameless acts, then suddenly changed his tone, and began praising my achievements over the past 10 years, calling me a pillar of the nation, and a model for the army. Finally he wrote in an almost pleading tone. I failed to see clearly for a moment, and wrongly trusted treacherous officials, causing a loyal man to suffer injustice. The northern border is in crisis, and all of this is my fault. Now I issue this confession of guilt, sincerely hoping General Chen Yuan can put aside past grievances, and think of the common people, coming out once more, to save the people from disaster. If the general is willing to return, I am willing to rule the realm together with you, granting you land and the title of king. I will never break my word. Rule the realm together. Grant land and make me a king. What a generous offer. If this had been 10 years ago, I might have been moved to tears. A scholar dies for one who understands him. But now, looking at these words, I only found them incredibly ironic. Where was he earlier? He treated me like a chamber pot, taking me out when he needed me, and kicking me under the bed when he did not. Now that he is desperate, he wants to lift me back up again. How could anything in the world be that cheap? Master, the eldest princess has also set out, bringing a large number of rewards and ceremonial guards, and is rushing toward Beiliang on horseback. From the look of it, she wants to personally invite you back. Let her come. I threw that confession of guilt into the fire, and watched it turn to ashes. I would like to see what kind of more interesting offer this lofty eldest princess can make. Old Zhang stood beside me, watching with his blood surging. Master, even the emperor has backed down, and promised to make you a king. Old Zhang, I looked at him, and said indifferently, a clay idol cannot save himself. Do you dare accept the kingship he offers? Old Zhang was stunned, then suddenly realized. Indeed, the Xiongnu army of 300,000 is already at the city gates. The Great Zhou court is currently precarious, and could collapse at any moment. What the emperor is offering now is nothing more than a blank check. He wants me to risk my life, to clean up his mess. Then, master, do you mean? I uttered a single word. Wait until they play all their cards. When they are truly desperate, that is when we strike. But if we wait too long, and the Xiongnu reach the capital, so what? I asked back. If the capital falls, the Zhou dynasty will perish. But the world doesn't necessarily have to belong to the Zhous. Old Zhang gasped. He finally understood my true intention. My master, what he wants, has never been a piece of land or a title. What he wants is this entire world. The army of 300,000 sent from the capital is still dawdling on the way. Princess Zhou Mushua's procession also because the roads were blocked by refugees, is moving with great difficulty. But there are two people who arrived a step ahead of them and found me. They were Qianzhengde and Lu Rushi. I don't know how they escaped from that living hell of Beiliang City, nor how, in these wild mountains and forests, they found my exact location. Perhaps some kind souls pointed the way for them. That day, it was raining cats and dogs. Huge raindrops pelted the tent, making a loud clattering sound. Old Zhang and I were drinking and eating meat in the tent. Suddenly, a report came from the guards outside. Master, two people have arrived outside, claiming to be your parents, kneeling in the rain, insisting on seeing you. The atmosphere in the tent instantly turned cold. Everyone's gaze focused on me. I held the wine bowl. My hand was steady. Not a single drop of wine spilled. Let them kneel. I said those 3 words indifferently, and then continued drinking. Outside the tent, the rain poured down. Qianzhengde and Lu Rushi were kneeling upright in the muddy water. Qianzhengde had a broken arm and leg, could only support himself with his remaining knee and hand. In a wretched state, his hair was disheveled, his face covered in mud. Where was any trace of the former Minister of Revenue's dignity? Lu Rushi was even more miserable. The silks and satins she wore were long torn, becoming ragged and worn. Like a madwoman, she wept, while banging her head against the muddy water on the ground. You honor, mother knows she was wrong. Please come out and see us. I beg you. Fonger, he is about to be tortured to death by the Xiongnu. Please save him. He is your own biological brother. An Archon family. The entire clan has been thrown into the imperial prison. You honor, you cannot just watch us die. Their wails and pleas, mixed with the sound of wind and rain, drifted intermittently into the tent. Old Zhang and the others stopped their chopsticks, each with a complex expression. After all, those are the master's biological parents. They knelt for a full 2 hours. The rain grew heavier, and the weather grew colder. I reckoned, if they kept kneeling, their old bones might truly be left here. I put down the wine bowl, stood up and walked to the tent entrance. I did not go out. I only lifted a corner of the curtain, coldly watching those 2 outside figures struggling in the muddy water. When they saw me, it was as if they had seen a savior, struggling to crawl toward me. You honor, you are finally willing to see us. Qianzhengde wept with old tears. Lu Rushi cried heart-wrenchingly. My son, please save us. We are about to die. I looked at them, with no expression on my face. The military authority, wasn't it given to you? My voice wasn't loud, but it reached their ears clearly. They were stunned. Beiliang City, wasn't it handed over to your precious son? Doesn't he want to crush the Xiongnu court, marry the eldest princess, and bring glory to the ancestors? With every sentence I spoke, their faces grew paler. Now Beiliang has fallen. Brother has been captured. The whole family is imprisoned. And you come to find me, this unfilial son, this ungrateful wretch. I smiled, a smile that was incredibly cold. The fall of the nation, what does it have to do with me? Your life or death, what does it have to do with me? After speaking, I slammed the curtain down, cutting off everything outside. Boom! A flash of lightning tore through the sky, illuminating Qianzhengde and Lu Rushi's 2 faces that instantly lost all color, filled with despair and numbness. They never expected that the response would be such a sentence. No, it can't be, Lu Rushi murmured, as if she had gone mad. I am his mother, I gave birth to him. How could he treat me like this? Qianzhengde couldn't catch his breath. His eyes rolled back, and he fainted from anger. Dead silence filled the tent. Old Zhang looked at me. His lips moved, but ultimately, he said nothing. He knew that from the moment I said those words, between me and the Qin family, the last shred of blood tie was completely severed, no longer possible. Qianzhengde and Lu Rushi were eventually dragged away by my men. I didn't kill them, nor did I care for them. I just had them thrown onto the main road. Whether they lived or died depended on their own fate. 3 days later, Princess Zhou Mushua's procession finally arrived. This noble-born princess was clearly traveling such a difficult road for the first time. Her luxurious carriage was covered in mud, and the accompanying guards and palace maids were all dusty and disheveled. Utterly exhausted, she didn't charge up the mountain directly, but sent a humbly worded invitation. I let her wait at the foot of the mountain. One wait lasted a whole day. From dawn to dusk, I calculated the time, estimating that the princess's patience had almost reached its limit. Before I let old Zhang invite her up, Zhou Muxue climbed the mountain alone. She refused all guards' accompaniment. When she appeared before my tent, I was sitting by the fire, wiping my war blade. She wore a simple white gown, with no makeup on her face, and her hair was simply tied up. I must say she was beautiful, a beauty of long residence in the deep palace, untouched by the mortal world. But at this moment, this beauty, because of humiliation and anxiety, seemed somewhat pale. She looked at me, looking at my coarse hemp clothes, and the old soldiers around me with eyes like wolves. In her beautiful eyes, a flicker of imperceptible fear flashed. "You are Chen Yuan," she spoke, her voice a bit tight. I didn't even look up, continuing to wipe my blade. "What is it?" My indifference clearly made her very uncomfortable. In the capital, no one had ever dared to speak to her in this tone. She took a deep breath, seeming to try and suppress the discomfort in her heart, trying to make her voice sound softer. "General Chen, I come here this time, by the decree of my imperial father." "I know," I interrupted her. "I've read it. It's well written. Brilliant prose." Zhou Muxue's face turned red and then pale. She bit her lip, setting aside her last shred of pride. Facing me, this butcher she once despised and looked down upon, she gave a graceful bow. "General Chen, everything in the past was the fault of the imperial family. It was the mistake of the Chen family. I, the princess, apologize to you on behalf of my father, the emperor. I know you harbor resentment in your heart, but now the nation faces a crisis. 300,000 Xiongnu troops could march south at any moment. The capital is in imminent danger. I beg the general to prioritize the people and return to save the country." She looked up, her eyes filled with a hint of pleading and hope. "As long as the general agrees, my father's promise shall be absolute. You shall be granted land and a title, sharing the fate of the nation. Even." She paused, a blush creeping onto her cheeks, her voice as low as a mosquito's hum. "Even I, the princess, can marry down to the general, to repay your grace in saving the nation." A collective gasp echoed around the tent. Old Zhang and the others nearly had their eyes pop out. The eldest princess marrying down. This is an immense honor, a blessing that countless nobles would fight tooth and nail for. I finally stopped what I was doing. I looked up and looked her straight in the eye for the first time. I had to admit she was indeed a beauty, especially now, with her pitiful and fragile look, appearing as if waiting to be plucked. It would be enough to make any man's heart flutter. Seeing me look at her, she thought her offer had moved me. A hint of involuntarily flickered in her eyes. Joy and a sense of natural confidence. In her view, no man could refuse such temptation. Power, wealth, and beauty. I had already received the emperor's promise. Now, even the most noble woman of the empire was willing to submit herself to me. What reason did I have left to refuse? I looked at her and suddenly smiled. "Your Highness, the eldest princess." She thought I was about to agree, and responded subconsciously. "You mean, as long as I nod, I can get a throne of a kingdom that could collapse at any moment, and a woman whose engagement was broken by my useless brother?" My voice was calm, but every word was like a knife, stabbing deeply into Zhou Muxue's heart. The color drained from her face instantly, completely vanishing. Humiliation, anger, disbelief. Various emotions flickered across her face. What did you say?" Her voice was trembling. I said. I stood up and walked over to her, looking down at her from above, my eyes filled with undisguised mockery and ridicule. "Do you think you're worthy? What makes you think that you, and your soon-to-be doomed imperial family, are qualified to negotiate with me? Things that I, Chen Yuan, want, I will take them myself. I don't need handouts from anyone. As for you..." I looked her up and down, and shook my head. "Too filthy. Get out." The last word, I practically roared it. Zhou Muxue was as if struck by lightning, stumbling back 2 steps, and falling hard onto the ground. In all her life, when had she ever suffered such humiliation? Tears instantly blurred her vision. She looked at me, her eyes full of malice and hatred. But she dared not say a word, because in my eyes, she saw undisguised killing intent. She had no doubt that if she spoke one more word, I would truly kill her. She struggled to get up from the ground, not even having time to brush off the dirt, and turned to scramble frantically down the mountain. Her retreating figure was as wretched as a stray dog. I watched her disappear into the night, the cold sneer on my face slowly fading. All the chess pieces were in place. All the trump cards had been played. Now, it's my turn. I turned to face old Zhang and the dozens of guards behind me, as well as those hidden in the valley. The 3,000 men already fully equipped. The Great Snow Dragon Cavalry who had reclaimed their blades and spears. Master. They knelt on one knee in unison, their eyes burning with fervor. I drew the North Wind Warblade, the blade pointing straight at the war-torn land below the mountain. Deliver my command. My voice, in the silent night, carried far, far away. All army, move out, move out. These 2 words left my mouth, neither heavy nor light, just enough for everyone present to hear clearly. The 3,000 men behind me who had been kneeling, they stood up almost at the same time. No slogans, no clamor, only the clattering sound of armor rubbing, as synchronized as a single person. They silently picked up the spears beside them which had long been polished to a shine, mounting their horses with crisp, decisive movements, without a single unnecessary motion. This is my Great Snow Dragon Cavalry, a group who crawled through piles of corpses for 10 years, soldiers who recognize only me, Chen Yuan, not the emperor. Old Zhang led over my warhorse, Takshu, a horse entirely pitch black, a North Liang breed with only snow-white hooves. Master, where are we going? Old Zhang's voice carried an irrepressible excitement. His single eye was filled with burning flames. For these past dozen days, he watched everything happening in North Liang City. A fire had long been smoldering in his heart. Now, this fire can finally be unleashed. I mounted my horse and took the North Wind Warblade he handed me, cold to the touch. I did not answer him directly. Instead, I urged my horse to the front of the 3,000 cavalry, turning around to look at them. Looking at these faces, both familiar and strange. Some had followed me since I came to North Liang at 15. Now they are stubbled. Some are new recruits added in recent years, with a hint of childishness still on their faces, but the ruthlessness in their eyes was exactly the same as the veterans. They were all looking at me, waiting for me to speak. I cleared my throat. My voice echoed throughout the entire valley. Brothers, I know, you have all been harboring fire in your hearts these days. North Liang City, which we guarded for 10 years, was occupied as if it were trash. Our brothers in arms were slaughtered like livestock. The people we protected for 10 years were penned up like pigs and dogs. Do you want revenge? Yes. 3,000 men shouted in unison, shaking the surroundings. A visible aura of killing intent rose from their bodies. Even the clouds in the sky seemed to be dispersed. Good. I nodded. But I want to tell you, this time we return. Not for that emperor surnamed Zhou, and certainly not for that damn court. 10 years ago, they threw us here to fend for ourselves. 10 years later, for the sake of a waste, they stole the military merits we bought with our lives. What are we in their eyes? We are dogs. Dogs that guard their house. Dogs that can be thrown away once used. I, Chen Yuan, no longer want to be a dog. What about you? No more. Let whoever wants to be a dog do it. The prince is right. Those lords in the capital, not a single one of them is good. The soldiers below, their emotions were completely ignited. One by one, they began to curse loudly. They had held these words in for too long. I raised my hand and pressed it down. The valley instantly became silent again. We return for only 3 things. First, revenge, with the blood of the Xiongnu, to appease the spirits of our 8,600 fallen brothers in heaven. Second, rescue, save our families, and the people who still see us as their guardians. Rescue them from the Xiongnu's butcher knives. Third, I paused. My gaze swept over every single person, speaking word by word. Take back what belongs to us. This North Liang City was won by our blades and spears. This land was irrigated with our blood. Its name is Chen, the Chen of my name, Chen Yuan, not Zhou. As soon as I finished speaking, the entire valley was first deathly silent, then erupted into cheers 10 times more intense than before. The prince is right. North Liang is ours. No one else matters. My life belongs to the prince. Wherever the prince points, I strike. I knew in my heart, from this moment on, this army truly became my private force. A force that fights only for me. A power that can overturn the world. I said no more. Turned my horse around, pointed my long blade forward. Target, Black Wind Pass. I will give Mo to Chanyu, the first great gift of our return. Set out. 3,000 cavalry, like a black torrent, silently surged out of the valley, vanishing into the vast night. I did not choose to go directly to North Liang City. Only a fool would do that. 300,000 Xiongnu soldiers. Even if they were a herd of pigs for you to kill, you would kill until your hands went numb. Let alone the fact that they are wolves hungry for 10 years. A head-on collision is the worst strategy. What I will do is first knock out his teeth, then cut off his claws. Finally, when he is at his weakest and most terrified, slit his throat with one blade. Hafen Pass is the essential route for the Xiongnu to transport grain and fodder from beyond the pass. 300,000 troops, men and horses eating. The daily consumption of grain is an astronomical figure. The food reserves in Beiliang City cannot possibly last long. Cutting off their supply lines is equivalent to strangling their lifeline. I want Mao Dun and those 300,000 Xiongnu wolf riders to know that I, Chen Yuan, have returned. The Knights of Beiliang, from this day forward, shall be a nightmare for them all. And at this moment, the one who had just been humiliated by me until she was stripped bare, Princess Zhou Muxue, was returning to the camp at the foot of the mountain in despair. Your Highness, what did that Chen Yuan say? A trusted eunuch asked cautiously as he approached. Zhou Muxue's face was pale, and her lips were trembling, whenever she thought of my mocking gaze, and those words, too filthy. She felt as if a knife were twisting in her heart. An unprecedented sense of humiliation surged in her heart. He refused, she murmured. What refused? He even refused your marriage proposal? Is he insane? The eunuch shrieked. Prepare the horses to return to the capital. Return to the capital immediately. Zhou Muxue seemed to suddenly wake up. She grabbed the eunuch's arm, her nails digging into his flesh. We cannot return to the capital. If Imperial Father knows I failed, he will kill me. She panicked, completely losing her composure. She thought that by acting personally, bringing the Emperor's promise and her own body, she could surely make that peasant feel grateful and kneel to receive the decree. She could never have imagined that he wouldn't fall for this at all. Just as she was at a complete loss, a guard responsible for the watch came running frantically over. Your Highness, this is bad. The rebels on the mountain have all moved. What? Zhou Muxue suddenly looked up. Looking toward that small hill, she saw that the hill where lights had been flickering was now completely dark. A deathly silence. Where did they go? She asked urgently. I don't know, the guard said tremblingly. A dark mass, just like ghostly shadows, headed north, and the momentum was too terrifying. Headed north? A loud boom echoed in Zhou Muxue's mind. The north is the direction of Beiliang Pass. It is the direction of the Xiongnu. He really came down the mountain. Didn't he refuse? Why does he still want to fight the Xiongnu? A thought flashed through her mind like lightning, making her whole body turn cold. He is not doing it for the court, nor for her. He is doing it for himself. He wants to steal the credit. No, that's not it. He is going to take back everything that belongs to him. Zhou Muxue slumped in the mud, looking desperately at the deep darkness of the north. She knew that things had completely spiraled out of control. That man was like a fierce tiger that had broken all its chains, descending the mountain. And I fear that what he wants to devour is not just the Xiongnu. The commander's mansion of Beiliang City. This place was once my residence, and now it has become the palace of the Xiongnu Chanyu, Mao Dun. In the hall, singing and dancing flourished, and the smell of wine filled the air. Mao Dun laughed loudly, pouring cup after cup of mare's milk wine into his mouth. Satisfying, truly satisfying. His face was flushed, and his voice was booming. These cities of Great Zhou are indeed more comfortable than our tents on the grasslands. Beside him, a one-eyed tribal leader raised his cup and flattered. This is all thanks to the Chanyu's divine power. Once that damn god of slaughter, Chen Yuan, left, these Beiliang iron cavalry were nothing more than sheep for us to slaughter at will. Ha ha ha. Well said. Mao Dun drank it all in one gulp and said triumphantly, What, King of Beiliang? He is nothing more than a butcher. Now, his brother, that so-called general of Great Zhou, has he not also become my dog? Saying this, he shouted outside the door. Come here, bring my general dog in, to entertain all the chiefs. Soon, 2 Xiongnu soldiers with sinister smiles dragged a man in with iron chains. The man was completely naked, his body covered in footprints and whip marks. His hair was as messy as a chicken coop. His face was covered in mud. It was none other than my dear brother, Chen Feng. Woof woof woof. Without being told, as soon as Chen Feng was dragged in, he proactively lay flat on the ground, imitating a dog's bark vividly. That fawning appearance made the Xiongnu chiefs present burst into laughter. Chanyu, this dog of yours is truly well trained. Yes indeed, more like a dog than a real one. Modern enjoyed such flattery. He threw a gnawed sheep bone in front of Chen Feng. A reward for you. Eat it. Chen Feng's eyes lit up. He pounced on it like a hungry tiger, grabbed the bone and stuffed it into his mouth, eating even the mud on it. He had been starving for 2 days. To survive, forget bones, he would even eat feces. Seeing Chen Feng's wretched state, Maden's vanity was greatly satisfied. But just then, a personal guard with a look of panic ran in from outside, interrupting the joyful atmosphere. Report. Chanyu, something is wrong. The smile on Maden's face vanished instantly. He frowned displeasedly. What's the panic? Has the sky fallen? Chanyu. To the east, at Black Wind Pass. Our grain convoy has been raided. The guard said stutteringly. What? Maden suddenly stood up, pushing away the woman in his arms. Raided? Was it those remaining soldiers of Northern Liang? I don't know. The guard was almost in tears. The men we sent only saw corpses everywhere, and grain supplies burned to ashes. The 300 brothers transporting grain, not a single survivor. Maden's eyes narrowed. A dangerous aura emanated from him. Was anything found at the scene? Yes. The guard quickly pulled something from his chest, and held it up high. On the corpse of a captain. We found this. It was a badge carved from a wolf's fang, with a ferocious dragon head carved on it. The badge of the Great Snow Dragon Cavalry. Upon seeing that badge, the laughter of all Xiongnu chiefs in the hall stopped abruptly. The entire hall instantly became so quiet that a pin drop could be heard. The atmosphere that was just now so noisy suddenly dropped to freezing point. Chen Yuan, the one-eyed leader's voice was trembling. The color drained completely from his face. This name was like a curse, making every Xiongnu present feel a fear from the bottom of their hearts. 10 years, they had been suffocated by this name. They thought this calamity had finally left, that they could do whatever they wanted. But now, this badge was like a bucket of ice water, pouring over them from head to toe. He's back. Maden's expression also became extremely grim. He snatched the badge away, gripping it tightly in his hand, veins bulging on the back of his hand. Impossible, he growled. He was already banished by the Emperor of Great Zhou. He is already a stray dog. Where would he get the nerve to return? Although he said this, he was also panicking inside. Others might not know, but he knew very well how terrifying Chen Yuan was. He wasn't even human, he was a lunatic, a demon. Could it be his subordinates, using his name, trying to frighten us? A chief guessed cautiously. Yes, it must be so. Maden acted as if he had found a lifeline, immediately agreeing. Chen Yuan is already a leader without an army. How many men could he have? 100 or so. At most. He is just bluffing, wanting us to be afraid, so that he can escape. The more he spoke, the more reasonable it seemed. The fear in his heart also dissipated significantly. Pass my order, he roared loudly. Dispatch 5,000 wolf cavalry along the Black Wind Pass. Search inch by inch. I want to see where this cowardly turtle is actually hiding. Once found, I will tear him into 10,000 pieces. He thought this was just a small-scale retaliatory action. He had no idea that he wasn't facing 100 or so remnants, but 3,000 completely enraged evil dragons from hell. Meanwhile, Chen Feng, lying on the ground, heard all of this, and his eyes flickered. Chen Yuan, he's back. Didn't he leave? Didn't he sign the kinship severance agreement? In Chen Feng's heart, a surge of extreme resentment and jealousy instantly rose. Why is it that wherever Chen Yuan goes, he can stir up such a storm? Why is it that as soon as he returns, he can terrify these ruthless Xiongnu like this? And what about me? I can only lie on the ground like a dog, begging for scraps. No, I cannot be a dog for the rest of my life. A malicious thought rose in his heart. This is an opportunity to show loyalty to his new master. He knew Chen Yuan better than anyone. He knew Chen Yuan's weakness. He struggled to crawl to Modu's feet, rubbing his head against Modu's boots. Chanyu, great Chanyu, he said in a most humble tone. I know that bastard. No, that traitor Chen Yuan's secrets. Modu looked down at him, his eyes full of contempt, but still asked, oh, what do you know? Let me hear it. Chen Feng's eyes lit up. Chen Yuan is the most arrogant of men. He certainly didn't bring many people this time. He just wants to gain an advantage through a sneak attack, to boost his own prestige. He loves most of all, to set ambushes in those treacherous mountain valleys. I know a place called One Line Sky, not far from here. Both sides are steep cliffs, with only a narrow path in the middle. He loves using such places. If you send a large army there, and station archers in ambush on both cliffs, once he enters, a myriad of arrows will fly, and he will have no way to escape. Chen Feng spoke with flying spittle, as if he could already see me shot like a hedgehog. He thought he was strategizing for Modu, carving out a path to survival for himself. He had no idea that this brilliant plan of his was leading me toward a massive surprise that even I wouldn't dare imagine. After listening, Modu rubbed his chin, falling into deep thought. The words of this waste, though not necessarily all correct, seemed to make some sense. Chen Yuan indeed likes to win with surprise tactics, taking an unconventional approach. Good. Modu slapped his thigh. We'll do as you say. Men, dispatch another 5,000 troops, led by my vanguard general, Hu Yanzhua, to immediately set an ambush at One Line Sky. I want to see if Chen Yuan truly has 3 heads and 6 arms. He looked at the flattering Chen Feng, and rarely showed a hint of a smile. You dog are actually somewhat useful. If we truly capture Chen Yuan this time, I will reward you as a centurion. You'll have plenty of fine food and drink. Thank you, Chanyu. Chen Feng trembled with excitement, kowtowing desperately, until his forehead bled. I will certainly devote myself to the Chanyu, serving like an ox or a horse. He thought his good days were coming. He didn't know that from the moment he gave this idea, he had already personally, for himself, and also for the Xiongnu, dug a massive grave. At this moment, Black Wind Pass was deathly silent. The air was filled with a heavy scent of blood and scorched smell, stinging the nostrils. Over 300 corpses of Xiongnu soldiers lay on the ground. They died in various states, but most were killed in a single blow. Many of their expressions were still frozen in the moment of shock. All the supply wagons had been burned to charcoal. I sat on my horse, quietly watching all this, with no expression on my face. This small victory isn't even an appetizer to me. Lord, everything has been cleaned up. Not a single soul was left alive. A centurion responsible for clearing the battlefield came to report to me. His name is Li Erniu, a veteran who has followed me for 10 years. A long scar on his left cheek makes him look exceptionally fierce. I nodded. Any casualties among the brothers? 3 brothers suffered minor injuries, all superficial wounds. It's no problem. The Xiongnu didn't even have time to react before being scattered by us. There was a hint of disdain in Li Erniu's tone. This was within my expectations. Over the years, the Xiongnu have been beaten into fear by me. Their scouts dare not come within 30 li of Beiliang Pass. Now that I've left, they think the world is at peace. Naturally, their vigilance has dropped to the lowest. A supply train of 300 men didn't even post a decent sentry. If this isn't delivering food to me, what is? Lord, what do we do next? Do we still wait here? Old Zhang asked in a low voice while urging his horse forward. I shook my head, looking toward Beiliang City. Mao Dun is no fool. After suffering such a heavy loss, he will surely send a large force to search. We cannot stay in one place. My goal is not to fight a war of attrition with them. My goal is to keep them exhausted from chasing, to give them no peace, to let them slowly collapse in fear and hunger. I want to be like a wolf lurking in the shadows, constantly biting them, making them bleed, yet never letting them catch a glimpse of me. Pass the order, I said in a deep voice. The entire army is divided into 10 teams, each team of 300. Centered around Black Wind Gap. Disperse in all directions. Remember, do not clash head-on with the main Xiongnu force. Specifically target their scout units and supply trains. Hit and run, never linger in battle. Every night, regardless of success, you must change positions at the designated spots. Use the hidden troop caves and secret passages we dug in the mountains. I want to turn this mountainous area within 100 li into a forbidden zone for the Xiongnu, so that with every step they take, they feel as if they are stepping on landmines. Yes, old Zhang and several thousand-man commanders replied in unison, their eyes full of excitement. This is exactly what they love to do. Back then, I used this very tactic, leading 3,000 Great Snow Dragon Cavalry to stall 300,000 Xiongnu troops outside the pass, stalling them for 3 whole months, eventually wearing them down completely. Now, it is simply history repeating itself. Additionally, I added, tell the brothers to be clean with their kills, try not to leave any survivors, but after killing a squad in the most conspicuous place, leave a dragon head emblem of our Great Snow Dragon Cavalry. I want Mao Dun to know clearly who is killing his men. I want him to wake up every day, and the first name that comes to mind to be me, Chen Yuan. Yes, Lord. The order was quickly conveyed. 3,000 iron cavalry split into small groups, like drops of ink merging into the night, disappearing into the rolling mountains, while I, with old Zhang and the remaining dozens of guards, rushed toward another direction, a place that my dear brother would never imagine I would go, even in death. The next day, at the first light of dawn, a Xiongnu scout squad of about 50 men was walking cautiously along a narrow mountain path. They were part of the army Mao Dun sent to search for me. The leading centurion surveyed the surroundings with vigilance. News of last night's events at Black Wind Gap had spread through the army. Everyone knew that the god of slaughter had returned. All of you, snap out of it, he shouted at his subordinates in a low voice. That guy loves to play tricks in places like this. Keep your eyes wide open. Just as he finished speaking, he suddenly felt a chill on his neck. He instinctively reached out to touch it, and felt something warm and viscous. He looked down, and saw a black arrow protruding from his chest, with a drop of blood still on the arrowhead. He wanted to say something, but could only make a gurgling sound. Then he tumbled headlong from his horse. Enemy attack. Only then did the Xiongnu soldiers behind him react. They drew their scimitars, but it was already too late. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. In the dense forests along the mountain path, countless arrows poured down like a rainstorm. Screams echoed one after another. These Xiongnu scouts had not even seen a shadow of the enemy. In an instant, they were shot like hedgehogs. The whole process took less than 10 breaths. After the battle ended, dozens of soldiers in black tight-fitting attire, Great Snow Dragon Cavalry with face paint, stepped out from the forest. They skillfully checked the bodies and delivered finishing blows. Then they took a dragon head badge, and pinned it to the centurion's chest. After doing all this, like ghosts, they quickly retreated into the forest and vanished. The same scene, at different times and places throughout the day, played out over a dozen times. The scout teams sent by the Xiongnu were like stones sinking into the ocean, vanishing batch after batch in the mountains outside Bailiang Pass among them. When this news, along with blood-stained dragon head badges, was delivered to Madan's desk, the face of this Xiongnu Chanyu had turned dark with fury. Useless. All of you are useless. He kicked over the table in front of him. The roasted whole lamb and fine wine spilled everywhere, sent out thousands of men, yet couldn't even find a trace of the enemy. Instead, they were treated like rabbits, and executed one by one. Who can tell me what on earth is going on? Just how many men does Chen Yuan have? Can he fly or vanish into the earth? The Xiongnu leaders in the great tent were as silent as cicadas in winter, not daring to even breathe. Fear, like a plague, spread through their hearts. An unknown enemy is the most terrifying. They felt as if they had fallen into an invisible great net, and that hunter named Chen Yuan was hiding in the shadows, watching them coldly, ready to pull the net at any moment. Chanyu. Just then, a messenger rushed in, with a hint of joy on his face. Chanyu, General Huyan Zhua has sent word back. He said, he has found Chen Yuan's trail. What? Madan's spirits lifted. Tell me quickly, where? General Huyan Zhua said. Based on that dog. Oh no. Based on the clues provided by Chen Feng, he discovered a troop of about several hundred men, moving toward the direction of Yixianshan. General Huyan Zhua has already taken a shortcut, and set up an ambush on the cliffs of Yixianshan. He told you not to worry. This time, Chen Yuan will definitely not return. Good, good. Good. Madan said, good, 3 times. The gloom on his face vanished. A cruel smile returned to his lips. Pass my order. Tell Huyan Zhua not to act too hastily. Wait for me. I want to see that bastard with my own eyes. How he dies before me. Tell the soldiers to pull themselves together. Once we slaughter Chen Yuan, we shall head south, to seize the capital of Great Zhou, seize their emperor, seize their princess. The excited howls of the Xiongnu echoed in the tent again. They thought victory was within reach. Meanwhile, I was with old Zhang and the others, standing on a high mountain peak, using binoculars to coldly watch that distant army, like a giant python like the Xiongnu army marching toward Yixianshan. Master, you are truly divine. Old Zhang put down the binoculars, saying with a look of admiration, how did you know? That little animal Chen Feng would lead them to Yixianshan. I smiled and said nothing. Of course I didn't know, but I know. That dear brother of mine has loved playing the smart one since childhood. He thinks he knows me very well, thinks he can guess my thoughts, and I am simply utilizing that intelligence of his. The troop of several hundred I sent out were merely some old, weak, and sick horses, with straw men tied to them, driven from a distance by a few veteran soldiers. The purpose was to lure that fish to the slaughterhouse I carefully prepared for him. Master, Hu Yanzhua has led nearly 10,000 men there. Modu has personally led his men there again. In total, it's nearly 20,000. Are we really going to fight? Old Zhang is still somewhat worried. Even at our maximum, we only have 3,000 men. 20,000 against 3,000. The disparity in forces is too great. Fight. Who said I was going to fight them? I put away the telescope. A cold curve played on the corners of my lips. Pass down the order. Tell the brothers to get ready. Once Modu's army has completely entered Yixianshan, send the grand gift we've prepared to them. I want Yixianshan to be renamed the 10,000-man pit from today onwards. Just as Modu led his army, rushing excitedly toward Yixianshan, preparing to watch a fine show of catching a turtle in a jar, the days of Princess Zhou Muxue became more agonizing by the day. She didn't dare return to the capital. She couldn't imagine, if she returned empty-handed, what kind of thunderous rage she would face from her father, the emperor. She dared not imagine even more, with Beiliang fallen, and the capital in turmoil, that she, a princess who failed her mission, would become the laughingstock of the entire court. So she could only take her troop to a place dozens of miles outside the Beiliang Pass, and find a dilapidated relay station to settle down temporarily. Caught in a dilemma, these past few days, she sent out all her spies to gather news of me from all directions. When she heard that I burned the Black Wind Pass, cutting off the Xiongnu supply lines, and within a single day, as if slicing through melons and vegetables, wiped out over a dozen Xiongnu scout squads, she was completely stunned. Shock, confusion, and a hint of ecstasy she was unwilling to admit. He actually took action. She grabbed the guard commander who came to report, her voice trembling. Didn't he refuse? Why would he do this? The guard commander shook his head with a bitter smile. Your Highness, your subordinate does not know, but judging by this momentum, General Chen Yuan seems to want to use his own strength to oppose the Xiongnu's army of 300,000. A madman. He is simply a madman. Zhou Muxue murmured to herself, but for some reason, the image of this madman, in her heart, became clearer and clearer, and more towering. That man by the bonfire, who coldly asked her, "Are you worthy?" That man she regarded as a crude butcher, yet who, by his own strength, upheld the northern border of Great Zhou for 10 years. That man abandoned by the entire empire, yet in the empire's hour of greatest peril, was the first to stand up, using the most direct and bloodiest way, to declare war on the enemy. Compared to the one kneeling at the Xiongnu's feet, wagging his tail and begging for mercy, Chen Feng, who was worse than a dog, it was like one in heaven and one in hell. Regret, like a venomous snake, gnawed at her heart once again. If she hadn't been so arrogant back then, if the royal family hadn't been so short-sighted, if the Chen family hadn't been so greedy, then now, standing by his side, fighting shoulder to shoulder with him, and sharing this glory, should have been her. No, I cannot let it end like this. Zhou Muxue suddenly stood up, a nearly obsessive light flickering in her eyes. Since he is willing to fight the Xiongnu, it means that in his heart, toward Great Zhou and the common people, he still has feelings. He is merely resentful of us. As long as I can appease his anger, as long as I can show him my sincerity, he will surely change his mind. She was like a gambler who had lost everything, desperate to grasp the last straw of hope. Guards, she shouted loudly, go bring those two old things up to me. The old things she spoke of were naturally Chen Zhengde and Lu Rushi, whom I had thrown on the official road, and who were later rescued by her people. These past few days, these two lived a life worse than death. The physical pain was secondary. The mental torture was the most lethal. From the high and mighty minister and minister's wife, they became stray dogs, worse than beggars. Their only son became a plaything for the Xiongnu. The entire family was thrown into the imperial prison. And the culprit of all this, their second son, whom they once looked down upon the most, has now become everyone's only hope. This huge gap and irony was driving them crazy. When they were dragged before Zhou Muxue by the soldiers, they no longer looked human. Your Highness, Princess, Your Highness, Chen Zhengde knelt on the ground, using the only good hand he had left, gripping the hem of Zhou Muxue's skirt tightly, tears streaming down his aged face. I beg you to plead with you honor once more. Only he can save our Chen family. Only he can save Feng'er. Lu Rushi also lay prostrate on the ground, crying heart-wrenchingly. You honor just hates us. As long as we kowtow to him, and apologize to him, he will surely soften his heart. He is my own flesh and blood. He cannot just ignore us. Looking at these two pitiful yet hateful creatures, in Zhou Muxue's eyes, a flash of disgust flickered, but she knew that these two people were currently the only cards in her hand that might be useful. Take them along, she said coldly. Also, pack all the gold, silver, and jewelry bestowed by the emperor. Load them all onto the carriage. Prepare the horses. We are going to find Chen Yuan. She felt that this time, she was going with sincerity and familial affection, using both soft and hard tactics, threats and bribes. She didn't believe that man could still be stone-hearted. However, she still thought too simply. When her convoy was traveling grandly along the mountain road, head-on, they encountered an army covered in blood, an army radiating an overwhelming murderous aura. It was exactly me, who had just split into small groups, and then regrouped. With my 3,000 Great Snow Dragon Cavalry, we had just finished a warm-up exercise, and were preparing to watch the show at Yixianshan, when Zhou Muxue's carriage was blocked by dozens of dark, gaping spears. She was completely terrified. She lifted the carriage curtain. What she saw were faces cold and devoid of any emotion, and pairs of eyes like hungry wolves. Leading them was me. I sat on my horse, looking down at her from above, without a single ripple of emotion in my eyes. You again? I frowned, somewhat impatient. Didn't I tell you to get lost? Why do you still want to try your luck? Chen Yuan. Zhou Muxue was so scared she couldn't speak coherently. She looked at the bloodstains on us that had not yet dried, and the strong smell of blood in the air. Her stomach churned violently. You honor, it's father. My son, mother is here. Just then, Chen Zhengde and Lu Rushi were dragged out from the prisoner carriage behind. As soon as they saw me, they acted like madmen, scrambling and crawling toward me. Get lost. Old Zhang flicked the horse whip, striking the ground in front of them, splashing mud everywhere. Who allowed you to approach the prince? Chen Zhengde and Lu Rushi stopped in their tracks, terrified, kneeling on the ground, kowtowing desperately to me. You honor, we know we were wrong. Please forgive us. Please save your brother. He is dying. I looked at them coldly, as if looking at two strangers who had nothing to do with me. Then, I turned my gaze to the pale-faced woman in the carriage. Her Highness the eldest princess. I smiled, smiling with great pleasure. You truly refresh my perception of stupidity over and over again. You thought that bringing these two old things would make me soften my heart. You thought that using blood relations to blackmail me would make me obediently follow your words. Zhou Muxue's body trembled like a leaf in the wind. I just wanted. You want me to tell you just how ridiculously wrong you are? I interrupted her, my voice suddenly turning cold. I will tell you today. I urged my horse forward 2 steps, closing in on her carriage. I looked at those two kneeling on the ground, those old things with eyes full of hope, and spoke slowly, word by word. I, Chen Yuan, was abandoned by you in Beiliang at 15. I considered myself to have died once. The current me has absolutely nothing to do with your Chen family. The blood in my body was long ago dried up by the wind and snow of Beiliang. The flesh of my heart was also long ago carved away by the Xiongnu scimitars. Whether your son lives or dies, to me, doesn't mean a damn thing. Using them to threaten me, Princess Royal, are you insulting me, or are you insulting yourself? Every word of mine was like a heavy hammer, smashing hard into the hearts of those three, Chen Zhengde and Lu Rushi. The hope on their faces instantly turned to despair, then to numbness. They gasped with open mouths, as if their souls had been sucked out, unable to utter a single word. Zhou Muxue's face was even paler, without a trace of color. She finally understood that this man's heart was truly dead. Towards them, towards the royal family and the Chen family, he no longer had even a shred of emotion. All that remained was hate. So I looked at her, the curve of my lips becoming dangerous. Now, take your gold and jewelry, take these two useless things, and vanish from my sight. If I ever see you before me again, I didn't finish my sentence. I simply used my hand to make a light gesture across my throat. The meaning was self-evident. Zhou Muxue was as if struck by lightning, let out a scream, and abruptly dropped the carriage curtain. Go quickly. Turn around now. In a voice choked with tears, she screamed frantically at the driver. The convoy fell into chaos, turned around, and fled in utter disarray. I watched their retreating figures as they fled in panic, without a shred of pity in my eyes. A bunch of self-righteous fools. I withdrew my gaze, pointed my long blade forward again, and continued forward, to watch the show. Yes, 3,000 iron cavalry let out a synchronized shout, bypassing the prisoner carriage abandoned by the road, and those two collapsed on the ground, like dead dogs. Those old things, continuing in the direction of Yixianshan, galloping away. Yixianshan, as its name suggests, is an extremely narrow canyon. On both sides are cliffs 100 zhang high, with only a small path in the middle allowing 2 or 3 horses abreast. This is a naturally perfect ambush site. At this moment, on the cliffs on both sides of the canyon, Xiongnu archers were crouched in dense numbers, totaling over 10,000 men. They drew their bows and notched their arrows, waiting only for the target to enter the ambush zone, to immediately unleash a rain of 10,000 arrows. At the end of the canyon, Modu and his most elite 5,000 wolf cavalry were also standing ready, blocking the exit. At the entrance, were 5,000 troops led by the vanguard general Huyanzhua. A vast net had been quietly cast. Modu sat atop a magnificent white horse, holding a telescope in his hand, looking towards the canyon entrance with high spirits. Have they arrived? He asked Huyanzhua beside him with some impatience. Chanyu, almost there. The scouts report that the troop is now less than 5 li from here. Good. Modu grinned savagely. Tell the brothers to keep their eyes sharp. Today, right here, we will slaughter that arrogant Chen Yuan, to avenge our fallen Xiongnu warriors. Whoa! The Xiongnu soldiers let out bloodthirsty howls. They had waited for this day for far too long. Soon, on the distant horizon, a troop appeared. That troop looked somewhat strange. The people in the troop were each riding their horses awkwardly, as if they might fall off at any moment. The horses also walked listlessly, looking sickly and frail. Moda frowned. What's happening? Since when did Chen Yuan's soldiers become so pathetic? Chanyu, look. Huyanzhua pointed to the front of the troop. They are indeed flying the dragon banner of the Great Snow Dragon Cavalry. Modern picked up the telescope. He looked closely. Sure enough, a large black dragon banner was fluttering in the wind. Who cares? As long as they are Chen Yuan's people, they must die. Modern put down the telescope. A fierce glint flashed in his eyes. Perhaps they've been hiding for the past few days, and are exhausted. It just saves us a lot of effort. He watched that sluggish troop slowly entering the canyon. 100 meters, 200, 300. Once the entire troop had fully entered the ambush zone, on Modern's face, a smile of extreme cruelty appeared. He suddenly raised the golden blade in his hand just as he was about to order the arrows to be fired. Suddenly, rumble, a world-shaking roar, from behind them, came from the mountain walls on both sides of the canyon. Then, the earth began to shake violently, as if thousands of horses and soldiers were charging. What's happening? An earthquake. Modern was pale with shock. The warhorse beneath him also began to neigh uneasily. Before he could react, a scene occurred that left him utterly terrified. The cliffs on both sides of the canyon, those hard rock walls, actually began to develop huge cracks. Then, countless boulders and soil, like a flash flood, poured down from the top of the cliffs. It's a landslide. Run! Quickly, someone let out a desperate scream. The 10,000 Xiongnu archers ambushing on the cliffs had no time to react. In an instant, were swallowed by the rolling mudslide, completely engulfed. The screams only managed to be half-uttered, before abruptly stopping. Modern and his Xiongnu soldiers stared dumbfounded at this scene like divine punishment. Their minds went blank. What is happening? How could there be a landslide out of nowhere? Could it be that the eternal heaven is punishing them? And that Great Snow Dragon Cavalry that had just entered the canyon, the moment the landslide happened, actually turned their horses around, at a speed 10 times faster than when they arrived, fled the canyon like they were flying. Only then did Modern see clearly. The people on those horses were not soldiers at all, but straw men made of straw. It's a ruse. We've fallen for a trap. Huyanzhua let out a heart-wrenching roar. Modern's face instantly turned pale. He finally understood this wasn't a natural disaster, but a man-made calamity. Chen Yuan again. He never intended to enter this canyon. He lured them here, to bury them alive. Retreat, Quickly, charge out of the canyon. Modern roared in terror and turned his horse, trying to run back, but it was already too late. Rumble. Another loud crash came from the entrance of the canyon. A massive amount of mud and rock blocked the already narrow entrance, completely sealing it off. At the same time, the exit of the canyon, where Modern and his men had originally been. The same thing happened. Both the front and back exits were completely blocked. Nearly 20,000 Xiongnu soldiers were thus trapped alive in this long, narrow canyon stretching for several miles. It's over. All over. A Xiongnu soldier threw away his scimitar, and knelt on the ground in despair. Modern looked at the cliffs where boulders were still rolling down. Looking at the completely blocked exits, a chill that seeped into the marrow, from the soles of his feet, rushed straight to the crown of his head. He felt he hadn't fallen into a trap, but into a grave carefully prepared for him. Just then, on top of the cliffs on both sides of the canyon, amidst the rolling dust, rows of black figures appeared. They were like demon gods crawling out of hell, looking down from above, coldly gazing down at those in the canyon. Prey who had become trapped like turtles in a jar. The leader sat atop a black warhorse, holding a warblade that was still dripping blood. Although they were far apart, although his face was not clear, but Modern knew who that person was. The man who had been his nightmare for 10 years. That butcher has returned. Chen Yuan. Modern pointed at the figure on the cliff, and let out a beast-like roar of resentment and fear. I sat on horseback, coldly watching the chaotic mess of Xiongnu below. Old Zhang was by my side, trembling with excitement. Master, you succeeded. We succeeded. This is simply a miracle. How did you do it? I smiled, and pointed beneath my feet. It's not that the mountain obeys me, but the gunpowder in this mountain, that obeys me. 10 years ago, at every strategic point outside the Beiliang Pass, I secretly buried large amounts of gunpowder. This gunpowder was stored using the most primitive, yet most stable method. Sealed tightly with oilcloth and wax. Not to mention 10 years, even 20 or 30 years, it would not lose its efficacy. This was the final backup plan I left for myself and Great Zhou. I never thought that one day this backup plan would be used for my own sake, to bury these forgetful Xiongnu. Pass the order. I wiped the smile from my face, my voice becoming bone-chillingly cold. Archers, prepare. Tell the brothers to save their arrows. Don't kill them. I want them, in despair and hunger, one by one, to walk into hell themselves. I want Modern to watch with his own eyes as his warriors, for a piece of bread or a scrap of meat, kill each other. My voice was not loud, but carried by the wind. It clearly reached the ears of every Xiongnu in the canyon. Hearing this, Modern trembled with rage, and spat out a mouthful of blood. He pointed at me and cursed loudly. Chen Yuan, you devil, you will die a miserable death. I just looked at him coldly, as if looking at a dead man. Then I raised my hand. Fire. The news from the narrow pass flew like it had wings, rapidly back to Beiliang city. When the Xiongnu generals remaining in the city learned that the Xiongnu and nearly 20,000 troops were buried alive in the canyon, and their fate was unknown, the entire Beiliang city completely erupted in chaos. How is it possible? The Xiongnu took 20,000 warriors with him. Is that Chen Yuan a devil? Does he know sorcery? It's over. The Xiongnu is trapped. Our supply lines are cut off. We will be trapped to death in this city too. Panic, like a plague, spread through the heart of every Xiongnu soldier. They no longer had the arrogance and brutality they had when first entering the pass. In its place was endless fear. Only now did they realize that a Beiliang without Chen Yuan allowed them to do as they pleased. But once that man returned, Beiliang would immediately become their hell. The few remaining tribal chiefs gathered urgently in the commander's mansion, each with a miserable expression, as if they had lost their parents. What do we do now? The Xiongnu is trapped. We are like a flock without a leader. What else can we do? Let's run. While Chen Yuan's main force is at the narrow pass, let's quickly leave the city and flee back to the grasslands. If we stay any longer, we'll all die here. A cowardly chief suggested. Run? Easier said than done. Another chief immediately retorted. That lunatic Chen Yuan must have set a trap all around the city. If we go out now, wouldn't we be walking straight into his trap? Have you forgotten how those scout teams vanished? Then what do you suggest? Stay here and wait for death. The food in the city will last us 10 days at most. After 10 days, what will we eat? Eat each other? The chiefs argued in a chaotic mess, and none of them could come up with a plan. While they were arguing heatedly, a humble figure crawled out from the corner. "It's my dear brother, Chen Feng." When Mao Dun left, he didn't take this dog with him, and left him in the stables of the commander's manor. These past few days, hearing the rumors of panic outside, he had been scared out of his wits. Now he feels his opportunity has come again. He must find a way, in front of these new masters, to prove his value. Otherwise, once the city falls, or the Xiongnu run out of food, the first one to be eaten will surely be this useless, two-legged sheep. "My lords," General Chen Feng knelt on the ground, and spoke in an extremely humble tone. This humble servant has a way to deal with Chen Yuan. The several Xiongnu leaders who were arguing, all stopped, looking at him as if he were a fool. What could a dog possibly have for a plan?" One leader spat with disdain. My lords, I know that traitor Chen Yuan better than anyone." Chen Feng grew anxious. To survive, he pushed his mind to the limit. Chen Yuan is the most hypocritical of men. He always likes to pretend before others to love the people like his own children, and appear peerlessly benevolent and righteous. What he cares about most is his reputation. We can use this to our advantage. A Xiongnu leader who seemed more intelligent became interested. "Tell us how we can use it." "We can take all the citizens of Great Zhou in the city, and capture them all. Tie them up on the city walls. Leave no one behind, regardless of age or gender." In Chen Feng's eyes flashed a malicious and excited light. Doesn't Chen Yuan claim to be the guardian god of Beiliang? Doesn't he love the people? Let's see how he loves them. When he sees the walls filled with the people he must protect, will he still dare to order the attack on the city? If he attacks the city, he will be slaughtering his own people with his own hands. He will never be able to hold his head high again in this life. His reputation as a guardian god will be completely ruined. If he does not attack the city, then we will be safe. We can use these people as hostages. Force him to send us food. Force him to release the Xiongnu. By then, the initiative will be in our hands. Chen Feng became more excited as he spoke, as if he could already see himself, because of this brilliant plan, being treated as an honored guest by the Xiongnu. He didn't think for a moment how malicious this plan was, how inhumane it was. Those people were all his compatriots. After hearing his words, the several Xiongnu leaders in the main tent all fell silent. They looked at each other, a hint of surprise appearing in their eyes. What they were surprised by was not the malice of this plan. To them, killing and arson, using women and children as hostages was commonplace. What surprised them was that this plan actually came from a man of Great Zhou, spoken from the mouth of a former general. "You are truly more vicious than we Xiongnu." That leader was stunned for a moment, then burst into loud laughter. "Good. A great plan. We will do as you say. Someone, convey my order. Take all the people of Great Zhou in the city, regardless of age or gender, and drag them all to the city walls. Anyone who resists shall be killed without mercy." Once the order was given, the entire city of Beiliang instantly became a true living hell. Xiongnu soldiers stormed into every household, roughly taking the citizens who were already trembling with fear, like dragging livestock, dragging them out. Cries and pleas for mercy echoed throughout the city of Beiliang, but none of this could stop the atrocities of the Xiongnu. Soon, on the high and sturdy walls of Beiliang, rows of innocent civilians were hung. There were white-haired elderly. There were hungry infants. There were terrified women. There were spirited youths. They were bound by ropes, like cured meat, hanging from the battlements, shivering in the cold wind. Despair enveloped the entire city, and the instigator, Chen Feng, was invited by those Xiongnu leaders to the main hall of the general's mansion inside, and was given a whole roasted lamb leg and a pot of mare's milk wine. He ate ravenously, with oil dripping from his mouth, his heart filled with the relief and pride of surviving a disaster. He felt he was truly a genius. Yixianshan, I was commanding my subordinates, using catapults, slowly throwing some little gifts into the canyon. Not stones, but some oil-soaked dry firewood, and some animal carcasses. I was in no hurry to kill them. I wanted to first, mentally, completely crush them. Just then, Ingzi appeared silently behind me. "Master, something happened in Beiliang City." His voice carried a hint of rare anger. I turned around to look at him. Ingzi reported everything that happened in Beiliang City to me in full detail. When he said, it was Chen Feng's idea to tie all the citizens to the city walls, old Zhang and several guards beside me were all furious. "Beast, that Chen Feng is worse than a beast. I'll go slaughter him right now." "Master, give the order. We will attack the city and rescue those people. I didn't speak. The expression on my face was terrifyingly calm. But those who know me well know, the calmer I am, the more it means the killing intent in my heart is boiling. I expected Chen Feng to be stupid and evil, but I really didn't expect that he could be so inhumanly evil. Even a tiger doesn't eat its cubs. He can no longer be called human. I slowly tightened my grip on the North Wind War blade. The dragon head on the hilt seemed to become scorching hot because of my rage. Ingzi, I spoke, my voice raspy like two stones rubbing together. I am here. Send our best men to sneak back into Beiliang City. The goal is not to kill, nor to rescue. I want you to take that beast Chen Feng, alive and intact, and bring him out of the city for me. I want him to taste for himself what true despair feels like. Ingzi paused for a moment, then nodded heavily. Yes, Master. He understood my meaning. A simple death would be too easy for Chen Feng. Master wants him to wish he were dead. I turned my head, looking at the city below that was once so familiar, but now has become so strange, Beiliang City. My eyes held only endless coldness. Chen Feng, you have successfully made me truly want to kill you. Not just kill you, but I want to cut you into 1,000 pieces, just as I besieged Yixianshan, and planned how to deal with my dear brother at the time. An army claiming to be 300,000 strong, finally from the capital, slowly made its way to the Beiliang border. Leading them was the old General Li Mu, nearly 70. I had heard of Li Mu, steady in tactics and experienced. He was one of the few generals in Great Zhou court who could actually fight. Unfortunately, he was too old and too cautious. His army, at a distance of over 100 li from Beiliang City, stopped, setting up camp, refusing to move a single step forward. Then he sent an envoy, carrying the emperor's decree, to find me. To find me. When he found me, I was on the cliff top of Yixianshan, drinking wine, while enjoying the chaos unfolding in the canyon. After days of siege and hunger, the Xiongnu inside had gone completely mad. To fight over the tiny bit of food we threw down, they began to kill each other. Comrades who called each other brothers yesterday, today, for a single steamed bun, stabbed a knife into each other's stomach. Modu Chanyu. He had long since become useless. He himself was surrounded by several who were blinded by hunger. The guards surrounded him. If not for Huyenju's loyalty, protecting him with his life, he would have been torn apart by his own men long ago. This is exactly the scene I wanted to see. Reporting, Master. An envoy claiming to be sent by General Li Mu has come from the mountain. Envoy, saying there is an imperial decree and he wishes to see you. A guard came to report. I put down my wine bowl and wiped my mouth. Imperial decree? I sneered. Let him come up. Soon, a man dressed in civil official's attire, a middle-aged man appearing to be in his 40s, was brought before me. The moment he saw me, he was stunned for a moment, probably because he didn't expect the legendary butcher Chen Yuan to look so young. Then, he cleared his throat, putting on the airs of a high official, took out a roll of yellow silk from his robe, unfurled it and prepared to read. The imperial decree is here. Chen Yuan, receive the decree. Wait. I raised my hand to interrupt him. The envoy frowned, speaking displeasedly. General Chen, in the presence of the imperial decree, why do you not kneel? As if I had heard the greatest joke in the world, I burst out laughing. The soldiers of the Great Snow Dragon Cavalry around me also burst into laughter. The laughter was filled with undisguised mockery. The envoy's face instantly turned the color of pig liver. In the capital, when had he ever been treated this way? How dare you? Despising the imperial decree is tantamount to treason. Do you admit your guilt? He roared, bluffing with fear. Treason? I stopped laughing, stood up and walked toward him step by step. I was a head taller than him. The oppressive aura from years of warfare made him instinctively take 2 steps back. My dear official, have you mistaken something? I stared into his eyes, speaking slowly and clearly. I, Chen Yuan, severed ties with the Chen family half a month ago, and also cut all relations with this great Zhou court. I am now just a commoner with no lord and no father. You bring the emperor's imperial decree to make a commoner like me kneel. Don't you find that ridiculous? The envoy was choked up and speechless, cold sweat seeping from his forehead. Before he came, he only knew the emperor wanted to reward Chen Yuan, and have him cooperate with General Li Mu to reclaim northern Liang. How could he have known that there were so many complications involved? What is written in the decree? I can probably guess. Nothing more than praising me for a few lines, then granting me a title of nobility, promising some benefits, and finally making me follow Li Mu's orders, to be used as their pawn, right? The envoy's mouth opened and closed, the terror in his eyes, showing that my guess was almost exactly right. Go back and tell Li Mu, and also tell that emperor in the capital. My voice turned cold. If you want me to reclaim Northern Liang, I can. If you want me to exterminate the Xiongnu, I can also do that. But as for following someone else's command, not a chance. This Northern Liang is my territory, Chen Yuan's territory. How I fight is how I fight. Anyone who dares to dictate to me. I drew the North Wind War blade. With a loud clang, stabbed it into the ground in front of him. The blade continued to tremble on its own. This blade doesn't mind one more sacrifice. The envoy's legs went weak from fear, and he fell flat on his backside. A pungent smell of urine wafted from his crotch. Get out! I roared at him. He scrambled up, crawling and stumbling, and ran down the mountain without looking back, even dropping the imperial decree on the ground. I picked up the imperial decree, without even looking at it, and threw it straight into the fire. A pack of old dogs who don't know death, fought a war for 10 years, yet I never saw them contribute a single bit of effort. Now that they smell the scent of blood, they all run faster than anyone else. I spat into the fire. Master, General Li Mu's army of 300,000 is only 100 li away. What if they... Lao Zhang said with some concern. They wouldn't dare. I sneered. Li Mu is an old fox. He knows better than anyone that those 300,000 useless capital lords under him, going head to head with my 3,000 Great Snow Dragon Cavalry, what the outcome would be. He stays in camp without moving now, just waiting for me and the Xiongnu to exhaust each other. Then he'll step out to clean up the mess, and take all the credit for himself. Unfortunately, his calculations were wrong. I looked toward Beiliang City, my gaze becoming deep and dark. Any news from Shadow? Replying to Master. News just arrived. Old Zhang pulled a note from his robe and handed it to me. Shadow has successfully infiltrated the city. He said in half a day at most. He will be able to bring the person out for you. Good. I nodded, a cruel smile appearing on my face. Li Mu wants to be the fisherman. But that depends on whether I, the fish, agree to it. Once I take back Beiliang City, and slaughter all the Xiongnu, I want to see if Li Mu still has the guts to show off his general's prestige before me. That emperor in the capital is probably still dreaming of recovering lost lands, and a dream of unity between sovereign and subject. He will soon realize that what he released was not an obedient dog, but a man-eating wolf, and he no longer has a chain to lock me up. Half a day later, night fell once again. Beiliang City. In the stables of the commander's mansion, Chen Feng was curled up in a pile of hay, shivering. Although because of that clever plan, he temporarily saved his life, and even had a full meal. But fear grew deeper in his heart. He could feel the atmosphere in the city, becoming more oppressive by the day. The way those Xiongnu looked at him, was more and more like looking at a piece of reserved meat. He knew that once the city's food ran out, or if Chen Yuan actually attacked, he would definitely be the first to die. No, I can't die. I still want to be the imperial consort. I still want to be a prince. He held his head, tossing and turning in the hay, muttering neurotically. Just then, the stable door was silently pushed open a crack. Several black shadows slipped in like cats. Before Chen Feng could react, he felt his mouth tightly covered with a rag, then a sharp pain in the back of his neck. His vision went black, and he knew nothing more. The whole process was clean and efficient. Not a single sound was made. The two Xiongnu soldiers guarding the stable door were yawning, completely unaware that the treasure they were guarding had been stolen without a trace. When I saw Chen Feng again, he was like a puddle of mud, thrown at my feet. A basin of cold water was splashed on him. He jolted awake. Ah! A ghost. He opened his eyes and saw my face, screaming in terror, crawling backward with his hands and feet. Don't kill me, Chen Yuan. Little brother. Good brother, please don't kill me. He knelt on the ground, kowtowing frantically, crying with snot and tears streaming. I am your brother. We are blood brothers. You cannot kill me, brother. I squatted down, looking at his face twisted by fear, and smiled. Since when did I have a brother who uses the lives of the whole city to trade for his own survival? I didn't. Chen Feng's eyes darted around, still being stubborn. The Xiongnu forced me. Yes. They all forced me. Is that so? I pulled a flying dagger from my robe, waving it in front of him. It seems your memory isn't very good. Should I help you dig out your heart to see exactly what color it is? No, don't. Chen Feng was scared out of his wits. His crotch instantly became soaked. I'll talk. I'll tell everything. It was me. It was my idea. I was wrong, little brother. I was truly wrong. Please forgive me this once. I won't dare do it again. He clung to my legs, crying like a 3-year-old child, looking at his weak and incompetent state, and his appearance as lowly as a dog. The last spark of anger in my heart vanished. In its place was a bone-deep sorrow and disgust. How could I have such a brother? How could the Chen family produce such a thing? I kicked him away, stood up, and didn't bother to look at him again. Old Zhang. Yes, master. Wash him clean, change him into decent clothes, put on the armor he wore when coming to Beiliang. That brand new and magnificent armor. I commanded indifferently. Chen Feng was stunned. Then a look of ecstasy appeared on his face. Change my clothes, put on armor. Is he going to let me go? He felt that I must have softened my heart. After all, we are biological brothers. Blood is thicker than water. Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. He was so excited he became incoherent. I knew you wouldn't abandon me. Don't worry. Once I return to the capital, I will certainly, before Father Emperor and the eldest princess, put in a good word for you, and help you get a promotion in rank. Even at this moment, he was still dreaming his pipe dreams. Old Zhang and the surrounding guards all looked at him as if he were an idiot. I ignored him, and simply continued. Feed him well and give him plenty of wine, so he looks more spirited and more imposing. Yes, master, old Zhang responded, and had people drag Chen Feng away. As Chen Feng was being dragged away, he kept shouting at me. Brother, don't worry. Your brother will definitely repay you in the future. Master, are you really going to let him go? A guard couldn't help but ask. Let him go? I turned around, looked at him, and smiled. Do you think I am such a soft-hearted person? I let him eat and drink his fill, and put on armor, only so that when he dies, he can do so with a bit of dignity. After all, he is about to be of the greatest use of his entire life. An hour later, outside the south gate of Beiliang City, a general dressed in brand new, magnificent armor, riding a tall horse, escorted by hundreds of guards holding torches, slowly approached the city gate. It was the imposing Chen Feng. He was well-fed and well-watered, and the magnificent armor on his body, under the reflection of the torchlight, sparkled brilliantly. He straightened his back, trying his best to maintain the air of a great general, although he was still a bit nervous inside, not knowing exactly what I wanted him to do. But I told him, as long as he handled this matter well, everything from the past would be wiped clean. The temptation was too great, so he had no choice but to brace himself and go. Halt! Who goes there? The Xiongnu guards on the city wall soon spotted them, and shouted loudly, Are you blind, you dog? Before Chen Feng could speak, the guards beside him, who were my Snow Dragon Cavalry in disguise, pointed at the wall, and cursed loudly. Open your eyes and look. Who is this? This is the centurion personally appointed by your Chanyu, General Chen Feng. The Xiongnu on the wall leaned out to look, and sure enough, it was that familiar dog. Only, why was this dog dressed so decently today? What do you want? A Xiongnu officer asked warily. What do we want? By order of the Chanyu we have come out of the city on business. The centurion disguised as a guard raised a glittering gold token. This is the Chanyu's gold plaque. We have just returned from Yixianshan, and have great news to inform the generals in the city and report. Why haven't you opened the city gates yet? That gold plaque was previously captured from a Xiongnu messenger, Modu's personal token. The Xiongnu officer on the wall, skeptical, he sent someone to report to the remaining leaders. Upon hearing this, those leaders, the Chanyu has sent someone back, and there is good news. They didn't have time to think much, and quickly ordered, open the city gates quickly, let them in. They desperately needed a piece of good news, to stabilize the morale of the army, which was on the verge of collapse. Creak. The heavy city gates slowly opened a crack. Chen Feng looked at that opening, and breathed a long sigh of relief. It seems my younger brother didn't actually lie to me. He spurred his horse, preparing to be the first to enter the city. However, the moment he reached the gateway, he suddenly felt something cold and hard against his back, pressing firmly against him. He turned his head stiffly, and saw the centurion of the personal guards who had been by his side, who was also my captain of the guards, holding a cocked hand crossbow, pointing it coldly at him. What are you doing? Chen Feng's voice instantly cracked. General Chen, the captain of the guards smiled, a smile of utter cruelty. Our prince said, the only useful thing you've done in your life is to use your life to open these city gates for us. Now, you can die. After saying that, he pulled the trigger. Thud! A short bolt pierced through Chen Feng's heart from behind. Chen Feng's eyes widened suddenly. His face filled with disbelief. He looked down, and saw, through the gaps of the ornate armor on his chest, a blood-stained arrowhead protruding. Why? He wanted to ask why, but he no longer had the chance. His body swayed, and he tumbled headfirst from his horse, landing right in the middle of the newly opened city gates. Dying with eyes wide open, the Xiongnu in the city, seeing this scene, were all stunned. And in that instant of their stupor, kill! An earth-shattering roar rang out from our side. I led the charge, wielding the North Wind Warblade, like a bolt of black lightning, charging toward the gate that stood open for us. The gates of hell. Behind me, 3,000 Great Snow Dragon Cavalry followed close behind. The gates were wide open, no longer obstructed. I led the way, the first to charge into Bailiang City after so long. Bailiang City, I, Chen Yuan, have returned. A long howl, like the roar of a dragon, echoed through the night sky. The North Wind Warblade in my hand was already craving blood. A Xiongnu centurion blocking the gateway, who hadn't yet reacted, was sliced in two by me. Man and blade alike. Warm blood splattered all over me, yet it only brought me endless pleasure. Kill! The 3,000 Great Snow Dragon Cavalry behind me were like an unstoppable torrent of steel, instantly flooding into the city. The long spears in their hands formed a forest of death. Wherever they went, chaos ensued and flesh flew. The Xiongnu defenders at the city gate had no time to organize any effective resistance. In a single clash, they were scattered by our charge, their army completely routed. They had been tortured by hunger and fear for too long. Their morale had long since hit rock bottom. At this moment, facing us, these gods of slaughter like tigers descending a mountain, they didn't even have the courage to draw their blades. Many threw down their weapons, turned and fled, screaming in terror. It's Chen Yuan. That devil has broken in. Run! Run for your lives. The entire Bailiang city instantly fell into total chaos. I did not pursue the routed soldiers. My goal was only one, the commander's mansion. To catch the bandits, first catch the leader. As long as those remaining Xiongnu leaders are killed, the rest are nothing more than lambs to the slaughter. Old Zhang, take 1,000 men and control the 4 city gates. Do not let a single one escape. Li Erniu, take 1,000 men to rescue the civilians on the city wall. The rest of you follow me. Flatten the general's manor. I quickly issued the order. Then I urged Takshu, along the most familiar Zhuke Avenue in my memory, towards the direction of the general's manor. Galloped away. Along the way, Xiongnu soldiers continuously, like headless flies, rushed out from various alleys. I didn't even bother to glance at them. The North Wind battle blade in my hand, just over and over again, mechanically swung. Slash, chop, stab. Every movement was simple to the extreme, and lethal to the extreme. Behind me, left a path paved with corpses and blood. The general's manor was right before my eyes. The few Xiongnu leaders left behind clearly had also received the news. They gathered the last 300 or so guards in the manor. At the entrance of the general's manor, set up a desperate formation. The leading Xiongnu general, seeing me alone on horseback, killing my way through as if entering an uninhabited land, his eyes turned red. Fire arrows. Fire the arrows and kill him. He roared hoarsely. Dozens of arrows, with a sharp whistling sound, shot towards me. I sneered, neither dodging nor avoiding, simply leaned my body low on the horse's back, while swinging the battle blade in my hand, dancing into an airtight web of blades. Clang clang, a series of crisp metallic clashing sounds rang out. All the arrows were all deflected by me. In the instant they were stunned, I had already rushed before them. Die! I let out a thunderous shout, using the momentum of the horse, like a cannonball, smashed violently into their formation. Puff puff puff. Wherever the long blade passed, severed limbs flew everywhere. I felt as if I had returned to 10 years ago, when I first went to the battlefield. I was like this back then too. One person, one blade, facing enemies many times my number. The difference was, back then, there was still fear in my heart, and hesitation. But now, only endless killing intent remains in my heart. Those few Xiongnu leaders were also quite fierce. Seeing they couldn't escape, one by one they howled, wielding scimitars from 3 directions, pounced on me simultaneously. Well timed. I laughed loudly, advancing instead of retreating. Facing the leftmost leader, I slashed down with one blow. The leader raised his blade to block. With a loud clang, his scimitar snapped instantly. My North Wind battle blade, its momentum unabated, from his shoulder shoulder, slashed diagonally in, all the way down to his waist. The expression on the leader's face froze instantly. Then his body was split in two in such an eerie way. The other two leaders, seeing this scene, were terrified to their core, turned around wanting to flee, want to run. Too late. I struck back with a reverse slash. The back of the blade struck one center back violently. He screamed, flew forward several meters, spitting blood, clearly unable to survive. Only one left. He had already run to the steps of the general's manor, about to escape inside. I snorted coldly, with my left hand from beside the saddle, grabbed a pre-prepared short spear. Without a second thought, threw it with all my might. The short spear drew a straight black line in the air, with absolute precision, through the center back of that leader, pierced through the chest. The immense force carried his body and pinned him firmly to the general's manor, upon those vermilion gates. Thus, all Xiongnu generals in the city have all been executed. I reined in Takshu and looked around. Before the commander's manor, corpses littered the ground and blood flowed like a river. And I just sat quietly on my horse amidst the mountains of corpses and seas of blood, like a god of slaughter from hell. Behind me, my 1,000 Great Snow Dragon Cavalry had also arrived. They looked at the scene before them, looking at the Xiongnu leader nailed to the door, looking at me, their eyes filled with fanatical worship. This is their king, a man who, by his own strength, could turn the tide of fate. I ignored their gazes, and simply dismounted, step by step, walking up the steps, arriving before the gate I once knew so well. I reached out and gently pushed open the ajar door. With a creak, the door opened. The courtyard behind the door was empty. There was only a heavy scent of blood. I followed the scent into the study that once belonged to me. The study was a complete mess, and beneath the desk where I once handled military affairs, a trembling figure was curled up there. It was Lu Rushi. Beside her lay another person. It was Chenjunga. With broken limbs, he had long since fallen unconscious. Hearing the footsteps, Lu Rushi looked up and saw me. She was stunned at first. Then her face showed an expression more terrified than seeing a ghost look. She let out a non-human scream. Her eyes rolled back, and she fainted from terror. I looked at these two who gave me life, but also gave me endless pain. My heart felt no ripple. I simply walked past them, calmly passing by, and walked to that desk. I reached out and gently stroked the corner of the desk. Those familiar carved marks. For 10 years, whenever I felt exhausted and desperate, I carved them in bit by bit with my nails. Each mark represents a fallen brother. Each mark represents a bone-deep hatred. Now the great revenge is avenged. I, Chen Yuan, have finally personally taken back everything that belongs to me. I slowly, on that seat symbolizing the supreme power of Beiliang, sat down. I closed my eyes, and took a deep breath. The air still smelled of blood, but this time, it smelled exceptionally sweet. The next day, dawn broke. Beiliang City, this grand city, baptized by war and blood, time and time again, finally welcomed a long-awaited peace. The Xiongnu wolf flags on the city walls had been replaced by a large black dragon flag. The streets within the city had been cleaned up. The bodies of the Xiongnu were piled outside the city. The surviving civilians came out of their homes, with relief from surviving the disaster and awe and reverence for us. They spontaneously brought out food and water from their homes, and delivered them to the soldiers of the Great Snow Dragon Cavalry. Those civilians who were rescued knelt on the ground, facing the direction of the commander's manor, kowtowing incessantly, shouting, "Long live Prince Chen." I did not go out. I just sat in the hall of the commander's manor, quietly wiping my Beifeng war blade. Old Zhang was by my side, reporting the results of the battle. "Master, in last night's battle, our Great Snow Dragon Cavalry had 127 casualties, and over 300 seriously injured. The Xiongnu garrison in the city, except for those we trapped in the narrow pass, the remaining nearly 100,000, were all annihilated. None escaped. Maodun and Huyanzhua are still in the narrow pass, blocked at both ends by our boulders, and their water source is cut off. They likely won't last more than a few days. The city's civilians, except for some who were killed by the Xiongnu at the beginning, most are safe and sound. I nodded, reasonably satisfied with this result, at the cost of 300 men, to eliminate 100,000 Xiongnu troops, and reclaim Beiliang City. This trade was very worthwhile. "Master," old Zhang paused, and asked cautiously, "Then, how should those two be handled?" Who he referred to were naturally Chenjunga and Lu Rushi, still locked in the backyard. My hand wiping the blade paused. Find a carriage, take them and Chen Feng's body, and send them away together. I said indifferently. Send them where? To Li Mu's main camp. Old Zhang was stunned for a moment. Then he understood my meaning. A cold sneer appeared on his face. Yes, Master, I will handle it right away. Sending this family of meritorious officials back to the imperial court. This was undoubtedly, on the faces of the emperor and Li Mu, a vicious slap. In Li Mu's main camp, when Li Mu and eldest princess Zhou Muxue learned that I used only one night, with thunderous force, to reclaim Beiliang city, and completely annihilated the 100,000 garrison troops inside, the two of them were completely stunned. What? How? How is this possible? The teacup in Li Mu's hand fell to the ground with a crash and shattered. His army of 300,000 was still here setting up camp, without even touching the walls of Beiliang city. Yet the job was already done, and done so cleanly and decisively. Zhou Muxue's face turned even paler. Sitting in her chair, her body swayed unsteadily. In her mind, the words I told her before echoed repeatedly. Things that I, Chen Yuan, want. I will take them myself. I need no handouts from anyone. It turns out he wasn't boasting. He truly has that strength. Just as their shock reached its peak, a soldier rushed in frantically. Report, General. Your Highness. Chen Yuan sent someone with a coffin, and 2 people have arrived. What? Li Mu and Zhou Muxue hurried out of the tent. In the center of the camp, a thin-walled coffin sat there all alone. Beside the coffin knelt 2 people with disheveled hair, looking like beggars. They were exactly Chen Zhengde and Lu Rushi, the Great Snow Dragon Cavalry soldier who brought them. Left a word, my prince said. These are the court's meritorious officials, and should be returned to the court for disposal. Then he swaggered away. Li Mu stepped forward and had the coffin opened. Lying inside was someone wearing magnificent armor, with an arrow pierced through Chen Feng's heart. Feng seeing her son's body, Lu Rushi let out a heart-wrenching scream. Her eyes rolled back and she fainted. Chen Zhengde was also in tears, slumping over the coffin, weeping bitterly. Li Mu looked at the family, then looked at the coffin. His old face turned red, then white, and finally turned livid. He knew Chen Yuan was showing off his power to him, showing off his power to the entire court. This is too much. This is simply outrageous. A court official who followed was shaking with rage. Does Chen Yuan have any regard for the law? Does he have any respect for his majesty? Li Mu didn't speak. He only took a deep breath. He knew that it was no longer a question of the law, but a question of who is the law. Prepare the carriage, Li Mu said in a deep voice. I will go to Beiliang city personally to meet this Prince Chen. He decided to take Zhou Muxue and the emperor's imperial decree to put final pressure on me. He felt that since I won the battle, I must give the court some face. As long as I accept the rewards, it means admitting I am still a subject of Great Zhou. Then everything could still be salvaged. However, he was still too naive. When he brought Zhou Muxue and a group of officials to the main hall of the Beiliang commander's mansion, what he saw was me, sitting in the seat of honor, leisurely sipping tea. Behind me stood dozens of guards radiating murderous intent. In the courtyard outside the hall, 3,000 Great Snow Dragon Cavalry, fully armed and silent as graves. That aura of slaughter pressed down on those pampered officials, until they could hardly breathe. Chen Yuan, seeing this general and Her Highness the eldest princess, why do you not bow? The envoy who had previously been scared witless by me, following behind Li Mu, summoned his courage and shouted blusteringly. I didn't even lift an eyelid, just blew on the steam in the teacup. Li Mu's expression was grim, but he still suppressed his rage, stepped forward, took an imperial decree from his sleeve. Chen Yuan, your merit in reclaiming Northern Liang serves the state. His Majesty decrees that you be titled King of Northern Liang, to coexist with the nation. With hereditary succession, why have you not come forward to receive the decree? He deliberately emphasized the words, receive the decree. I finally put down the teacup, raised my head and looked at him. I did not look at the imperial decree, nor did I look at the one beside him with a complex expression, the dodging eyes of Zhou Muxue. My gaze looked past them, as if seeing thousands of miles away, that magnificent golden palace, and the one sitting on the dragon throne, the anxious emperor. I smiled. General Li. My voice was very calm, yet it clearly reached everyone's ears. I will not receive this imperial decree. Go back and carry a message for me. Ask that emperor in the capital, from this day forward, within 10,000 miles north of Northern Liang Pass, whether the Zhou family's decree holds sway. I paused and pointed to myself. The smile smile at the corner of my mouth became meaningful, or whether the words of me, Chen Yuan,